today. Be part of the solution, switch it up. For future generations, level up. If our planet dies, how will you console me? We don't have time to ignore the signs. We don't have time. No
We grow up, and we play. We invent new ways of doing things, and we collaborate. We prepare for that special date, and we care for each other. We do whatever it takes, but our world is on fire, and our future is at stake. We don't have time to wait, but no country, business, or individual can fix this on their own. Together,
Cato.
we can set things straight. Let's act. Through the power of many, we can make change happen. Let's encourage sustainable solutions. Let's suggest new ways of doing things and demand bad practices to stop. We all unite behind the one thing that matters, to save our world. Will you join us?
We are in a climate emergency, and we are very far from where we need to be.
Welcome to the second Exponential Climate Action Summit.
This decade is crucial for the future of us all.
The outcomes for humanity could actually spell disaster.
There are no jobs on a dead planet.
And that's why waiting is not an option.
We're not recovering in a green way as we had hoped last Earth Day.
Poor communities are the one really facing the biggest burden of climate effects.
World Bank estimates that every year we need $4 trillion of capital in emerging and developing economies to pay for the mitigation and adaptation needs.
Personally, I don't believe the fossil fuel industry should continue to be allowed to operate the way it's been operating for the last several decades.
The vast majority of green products on the market today create new profits for investment firms but do absolutely nothing to fight climate change.
We have to transform the 55% greenhouse gas reduction target that we now have at the European level, the declaration that we're getting from other countries, including Biden today, to halve their emissions, into actions.
So we need strong climate action from business, we need strong climate action from finance. I will encourage every company, every financial institution to join the race to zero immediately.
Investing in a low carbon, a resilient economy.
We now move on to the Climate Initiative session, and we start by addressing how we can accelerate the access to renewable energy. I will therefore give the floor to Katarina Grönvall, Chief Communications Officer at OX2, who will moderate the session in the company of a few colleagues. So please take the stage, Katarina.
Thank you. Have a seat. Hi, everyone. It is great to be here today. We feel very privileged that we are able to be part of this very, very important day. My name is Katarina Grönvall, and I am Chief Communications Officer for the company OX2. And we are here to talk about accelerating the access to renewable energy. So you could ask why? Because we work with renewable solutions. We work with developing and selling turnkey renewable solutions. We work in different technologies, and we are very proud to say that today we are actually the leading company when it comes to onshore wind power in Europe. The big why we are all here today, and I think it's something that I share with many of the companies that are joining these days, is the fact that we are standing in probably one of the largest challenges in our history. Our recent history is, of course, the climate challenge, the climate change. OX2, like many of the companies, believe in, of course, profit, I need to say, as we are a listed company. But we also believe in purpose. And we think that profit and purpose work perfectly well together. And actually, they are very interdependent. We all like to deliver on profit, but we need the purpose to do so. And in order to deliver on purpose, we also need the profit. So that is I think, it's a very natural way of thinking for a modern company, as we like to be, of course. So we work in the renewable energy sector, and that has been around for many years. It's not something new for 2022, but we see a big change. And as you can hopefully see here on the slide, I will swap slide. There is a lot more, or the renewable energy sector is absolutely growing. In 2050, we wish to believe that the renewable energy sector will actually represent 50% of the energy sector, the total energy sector. I know a little bit about renewable energy, but I brought 3 friends that know a lot more about the renewable energy sector. We have Paul Stormoen, who is our CEO. We have Rebecca Karlsson, who heads sustainability for OX2, and we also have Peter Thunberg, who is head of development and acquisition. Paul, I think I will start with you. You've been with the company for many, many years. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you have seen within the renewable energy sector as such during these years that you've been with the company?
Absolutely. Thanks, Katarina, and thanks for inviting us. So when I started at OX2 about 14 years ago, renewable energy was still marginal. It was a peripheral source of electricity production. And I remember going to conferences. We were always in the basement. Oil and gas were in the main hall. That really started to shift some, I would say, 4 years ago, when we could start constructing our first wind farms without the need for government subsidies. So that made a huge difference. And as you kind of see on this slide here, the cost of renewable energy is what is driving this. There's a lot of development in the whole sector, giving comfort to investors, expecting lower returns. The whole investment is considered less risky now compared to 10 years ago. But all in all, the cost is somewhat 70% down on wind and decreasing on PV or solar PV by 80% or so over the last 10 years. So huge improvements have been made on the whole scene, not just the kind of the cost scene, but how investors have viewed investing in renewable energy. And the fact that we went off subsidies was surprisingly positively received by the investors, no longer being dependent on how the political wind was blowing, but rather being able to long-term analyze what is the electricity consumption going to be like, where is the electricity market, and that's more easy, to be honest, than analyzing politicians. So this has made a huge change. We now see major global industrial companies investing in renewable energy, kind of both for the profit, as you pointed to, but also with the ambition to secure their supply of emission-free electricity. So if you look at the business case, it's typically not anymore driven uniquely, as I'm coming back to, by politics and policies, but we still need the support for development. It's infrastructure development. So we're going through the court systems, we're going through the law on how this is being developed. So of course we need a strong backing, which we really feel that we have all the way globally today, that renewable is going to be a core part of our future. And we have support both from the science, IPCC report recently presented now in April, very clearly pointing to that renewable energy is the fastest and most efficient way to fight climate change. And here OX2 really wants to be a leader in accelerating the access to this. So we have a long history, a fantastic track record, as you say. We're the leader in Europe when it comes to volume of how much we have built out, about 3.4 gigawatts over the last 18 years where we have been active. So if you flip to the next page, you look at some of some of the targets we've set when we saw that we are now looking at long-term development, not just meeting political targets. We could start investing heavily in the portfolio, in the organization, to meet a much, much longer horizon. And I think this is important for a company, to not work in these kind of confined, finite boxes all the time, but being able to invest long-term. And that's also why we set out for a public IPO last year. We've announced that we're tripling our output by next year, which is just really fantastic considering all of what's happening in today's market, where unfortunately last week we saw Repower EU expecting an increase in coal consumption again back in Europe, and we really want to kind of contribute to fight that one. So the targets we're setting is high, but so far in the public scene, I mentioned it's about 12 months since we IPO'd. We have delivered significantly above the targets that we have communicated. So we have a good start on that one. And of course, big targets means a bigger market. We cannot just cannibalize on the market share. So we're growing also and now covering 11 countries in Europe, which is really what I think this trend is about. You need a global or at least a kind of a country approach to this. You can't just be a large developer in one country. You need to learn from multiple jurisdictions, multiple cultures, and we're really seeing the benefit of being able to both build the organization with more and more cultures, learn from what's happening now in Poland, what's happening in Spain. It's so much we can bring back to Sweden and how we develop in Sweden. So, of course, there's not without challenges. So we have challenges over the last couple of years. We've seen a pandemic, which actually came to force us into working more technologically connected, more on a distant basis, which we have benefited from as an organization. As I said, we've grown from 3-4 countries over the last years up to 11 countries now. We're recruiting when it comes to solar PV. The competence is down in Southern Europe. We don't need to move people to Stockholm anymore to be included in the OX2 organization, but rather connect. We have digital offices, and this is really helping connecting throughout Europe. So this is something we've been fighting, and of course also when we saw this terrible incident in Ukraine and what's going on there, we were constructing 3 wind farms in eastern Poland, where we had kind of seen firsthand what it's like to meet these refugee streams coming from Ukraine into the municipalities. So we're supporting a lot on those. So a lot of learnings over the last couple of years, and as I said, I think we're getting just stronger by being exposed to more geographies on this topic. This is a global issue that we need to solve, and we really need to cooperate across borders for this one. So the opportunities are fantastic, pointing to some of the challenges here, but we really see that the market is following us. We're announcing new constructions every quarter. Yesterday we announced the construction start of a wind farm and a PV farm, quite significant in Poland, where the IKEA owners, Inca Investment, will be the end buyer once we have constructed the project. And yeah, I think I don't speak just for myself when I can say that this is extremely motivating to be part of. So as you said, both being able to match what drives a business, which should be delivering shareholder value, but also having kind of the opportunity to stand in front of my daughters and say that we're doing something that will be kind of supporting their generation. So we're working in onshore wind. We're working in offshore, which is really a societal shift, I would say. And I think Peter can talk a bit more about the offshore wind and what that will do for the society. We also see fantastic opportunities in solar PV. As we said, that cost has come so much down that even in the Nordics, it makes sense to build large-scale solar PV by now. So really amazing the opportunities that comes with this energy transition. So yeah, we're now looking at how do we support the fact that this is an intermittent source of energy. The wind doesn't always blow, and the sun definitely doesn't shine all the time. So we're working on storage. We're working on hydrogen to gap these both on long-term and short-term energy needs. So I think that this is kind of the perfect match where technology is working together with a long-term purpose, and yeah, it feels really fantastic to be part of this one.
Sounds like you have fun at work.
I do. 14 years in, and still amazing to be part of. Yeah. So I think with that, Maybe Peter,
yeah.
Do you want to catch up?
Peter, I asked you to join because when I joined the company, I had very sort of low level of understanding for renewable energy. I didn't know that much. And you were my buddy, and you taught me everything, and I think you're very, very good at explaining what this is all about. So that's, can you please help us out here with some detail? I think Paul did a great job in introducing, but...
Yeah. Absolutely, no, and I will go back a little bit to what Paul was pointing towards earlier, the kind of fantastic development that renewables have seen over the last 10, 15 years. And we could start there on the cost side. On the left part of the slide behind me, you have a cost curve, both pointing out what the cost development, the levelized cost of energy, what does it cost to produce a kilowatt hour of power from onshore wind, and what does it cost from PV. And as you can see for both these technologies, over the last 10 years, it has moved from being expensive sources of electricity production to today achieving levels where they are by far the most cost competitive when comparing to the fossil ways of generating power. So it's no longer a matter of actually needing to be a lot of subsidy in order to construct renewables, but today is the cheapest way of actually producing electricity. And when you compare then the different sources, and I think one should also bear that one in mind, the kind of development that we have had over the last 10 years. For a long period of time, it was very much around the climate change, that governments wanted to subsidize renewables in order to increase that share into the electricity mix of different countries. But over time, and I think Ukraine has even more pointed towards that, the importance also of energy security, and that renewables is really something that we can produce within our countries, and by doing so, we also benefit clearly from an increased energy security, which is more and more important. When we move from being a small technology, which renewable was 10 years ago, to being the main source of not only electricity production, but energy production, because that's what's happening at the moment, in that in order to move away from our dependency on fossil fuels, we also are transforming into a system where all electricity and thereby all energy will need to be produced from renewables. And when doing so, the whole electricity system needs to transform. It needs to transform both from the perspective that it needs to be much more electricity produced. If you take Sweden as an example, we today have some 150 terawatt hours of production of electricity. But the forecasts of the needs when the electrification of industry happens and when the electrification of transport happens, we forecast, or the state is forecasting, that we will need probably around some 400 terawatt hours of production. So renewables needs to be geared towards growth, which is very important, but it also needs to be geared towards how to cope and how to ensure that we have a stable electricity system, because it is also so that renewables is different. The PV is producing when the sun is shining mainly, and the onshore wind or offshore wind is producing mainly when the wind is blowing. But we need to be able to have electricity and energy at all points in time. So when approaching the electricity and energy system, one also needs to rethink and rebuild the system. It's not that you're going to construct a replica of the system constructed 50 years ago, but instead start with today's technology and think what solutions can we today implement that enables 100% fossil-free electricity and energy system. I think if we move to the next slide, here we have a bit of an outlook on how could it actually be so that we have achieved now this utopia, which it was 10 years ago, where renewable sources are actually the cheapest sources to produce power. Important to bear in mind when looking at such figures is that it will vary very much depending between different markets. Every market is gifted with different types of resources. If you take the Nordic countries are spoiled with having a good resource, relative resource from a renewable perspective, meaning that the wind is blowing and the sun is at least shining a part of the year. But as well as with the number of inhabitants is relatively limited, which enables a quite strong growth. But if you would move to a Central European country, the recipe for how to produce the renewable energy there will be different than from for example, the Nordics. So when rebuilding the system and bearing in mind the storage, the hydrogen, the ammonia, the different ways of how you can transport electricity and energy, it is a big shift, and it is a very, very big task that we have ahead of ourselves. And the positive thing is that what you can see in this graph is that the more that the system is expanded, the more renewables that is being constructed to date, that has only led to that the cost is coming further and further down thanks to the technology development. When you compare to some other sources of electricity or energy production, that hasn't necessarily been the case. And why is that then? If we flip to the next slide, that is really, in the end, the expansion of technology. When Paul and I, we were fortunate enough to start working with this, both of us some 14, 15 years ago. Then we were on the onshore side constructing turbines that were around 2 megawatts. And typically maybe had a tip height of or a total height of something like maximum 150 meters. Today, the turbines that we plan to deploy in our offshore wind farms are turbines which are far higher than 250 meters, and they have an installed capacity of some 20-25 megawatts per turbine. And this technological development has then really continued to push down the cost. The cost to produce a kilowatt hour with this levelized cost of energy that I was mentioning earlier has been sharply declining, and with further expansion, and when now offshore goes from being taking that one as an example, going from being a European activity and it goes global. We see offshore development in the US and in Taiwan and in Asia, etc. The continued expansion is also likely to result in a continued drop in levelized cost of energy. So it's not only the right thing from a climate perspective, it's also the right thing from an energy security perspective, and it's also the right thing from a pure cost perspective, also when bearing in mind the full system cost integration.
Thank you, Peter. Now I turn to you, Rebecca. You are head of sustainability, and it's easy to argue and say that we are a sustainable company because we are in the renewable energy sector. But I think it's also about, I mean, the business in itself is sustainable, but it's also about how we operate. Do we deliver in a sustainable way? Can you please just share with us some thoughts about what we are working with?
Definitely. OX2, we've based our strategy on a people, planet, profit aspects. It's often called triple bottom line. these three areas help us develop renewable energy projects, both thinking of the environmental aspects and the social aspects, as well as being profitable, of course, because that's essential. But I would like to highlight two of our sustainability areas that I think is relevant when we're talking about the environment and social aspects. It's the community engagement target. For OX2 is very important. We want to involve and show respect for the people who live and work around our solar and wind farms. And we also have an ambition to provide local jobs when possible. So I have an example from OX2 in Poland, for example, where we've, together with the Wind Hunter Academy, set up a training for former miners to transition over to the renewable energy sector. That's a good example of how we work with community engagement. And another long-term target for us is biodiversity. It's important for OX2 to develop renewable energy, but not do it at the expense of nature. So we have long worked to minimize the negative impacts that the construction, for example, of a wind farm actually have. For example, deforestation of trees. But now, during last year, we've set a target goal of nature-positive wind farms by 2030. So we're actively working towards that. And I mean, with this focus, we want to develop renewable energy that creates significant benefits for both the climate and for nature. I think those two are good examples of how we work with these three aspects.
Thank you. And we still have a couple of minutes left, so I think we have time for some questions here. But something that often comes up, at least as we all, the four of us, we live in Sweden, and unfortunately we have a bit of a debate of either you are pro-renewable energy or you are pro-nuclear energy. Do we have to have that sort of contradiction? Is that the wrong? Are we talking about the wrong thing then?
I believe to a large extent we do. We do talk about the wrong thing, and I think it goes back to what I at least tried to point towards earlier, in that each market will need to find their own way, depending on what they feel is a viable path ahead. And for some markets, depending also culturally, if they feel that nuclear is something they want to construct, it could definitely be the right way ahead, in a combination with renewables. And if you take for our own country, that could also be the case. And things cannot change overnight, and you need to take this system perspective into have that one in mind when you design and how you want the new electricity / energy system to look like, because that's going to be the same.
Thank you. Rebecca and Paul, you meet a lot of investors and analysts and journalists. Do they understand what we're doing?
Well, yeah, I can start by pointing a bit to that. It's changed quite a lot over the last 5 years. That the questions coming from, so when we talk about investors or customers, one kind of so the ones that buy the wind farms and solar farms that we work with, they have started to adapt a lot to the frameworks set in EU. I think the financial push that is being placed on the financial system now to support is actually working, because we're spending a lot of time talking about ESG related topics on the wind farm. It's not just what's the cash flow. It's very much what are the biological diversity impact assessments? What are all of these? How does this fit into the different type of frameworks that has been established? Basically, all in all, to make their own financing come through in a cheaper way. So I think this is a fantastic way. I know a lot of people think that kind of working through the financial system is kind of a cold-hearted way of solving it, but it's a necessary way to achieve it. We cannot ignore that this is an important factor. And now we have that momentum. We have much more buyers than what we can entertain in terms of products. So we really need now to work on getting the projects through and being able to kind of with that push forward the speed of which we can deploy and support the renewable consumption as well. So I tend to come quite a lot to you, Rebecca, as well, talking about how does this kind of fit into anything from the taxonomy to different type of certificates. So
I think the EU taxonomy and the CSRD, and that's coming up quite soon, is really what's pushing customers looking into. I mean, companies like us. And we need to help them to deliver on their KPIs as well. So I think it's also improving our sustainability work, which is good.
So I think that's a great way of ending. We are interdependent, and it's very, very fun. I can just encourage everyone, if you don't know what to work with, we suggest that you start working with renewable energy. We think that we are working with something fun, but we're hoping that we're doing good for society as well. So thank you today for OX2, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, OX2, for your session here. Well, thank you very much, OX2, for your session here and for sharing your insights. And this concludes the Climate Initiative session for today. We continue with a presentation about the fabulous space we are in right now, which is called space. And I'm happy to welcome Åsa Kopp. She is head of space here at Space, and she will talk to me here. How about you take the sofa and I take the armchair? Or it's not an armchair, it doesn't have any arms, but the comfy. The comfy, yes. So it was so wonderful to be here in your space. We are enjoying ourselves thoroughly. It's a fantastic place this is. And for those of you watching online, we need you to tell the audience all over the world, what is space?
Oh, what is space? Well, first of all, we're really happy to have you. So thanks for being here. So space is a digital culture center. We say it's a physical meeting place for the digital generation. So more or less everything within digital culture. It could be gaming, esports, podcasts, music, anything digital around. It could be art, but anything around digital culture.
Well, it's big. Can you just frame a little bit what it's like for the people?
So
that
we're below ground now, two floors below ground. The gaming is they don't need windows. So below ground here we have this arena, and then we have the largest gaming center in the world with over 400 gaming setups. And then one floor up we have Avicii Experience that we've built together with Tim's parents. It's a museum, an interactive museum about Avicii and Tim's life and work. And then we have restaurants, cafes, we have studios, different studios, broadcast studios, podcast studios, green screen studios and stuff like that. And then we have a big co-work and a meeting and event arena as well.
So these 5 days that we're here, you're really helping us bring sustainability solutions to the world. But in other aspects, how can space be a facilitator to create a better big space, the planet?
Well, we work a lot with a sustainable business models around tech. So first of all, we have space is a very inclusive place. So digital culture, maybe especially gaming and esports, is very male dominated, and the LGBTQI community, also females, don't very often feel 100% included, maybe. So we're working really hard with everything from language. We have house rules here, and if you break them, you get your account closed down, and then you can take a test to be approved again, and then you can come back.
So there is an educational aspect of this.
Yes.
Wow.
And I think it's a long. We're in this for the long term. I don't think we change this overnight, but it's something that we take really seriously. So we try to work with the whole environment here to be inclusive.
And I know for sure that the Tim Bergling, the Avicii family, the foundation, they also work with #ForBetterDay.
Yes, they sit here as well. They work with us. Yeah. So we also donate.
It all fits together.
Yeah, exactly. We also have something that I'm really proud of, which we call Space Academy. And it's a learning platform to democratize tech knowledge and also make the tech industry more diverse. So Sweden is a tech country, and we lack around 70,000 coders.
We do.
Only Sweden, and we have a problem importing this labor. And on the other hand, the school system is obliged to teach 9th graders coding, but they don't have the equipment.
But you do.
But we do. And in the mornings, no one is here gaming anyway, so we let the schools come here. They also struggle to inspire kids. And since if they're all, so if you, I make it simple here, but if there were only white men who developed all tech products in the world, then they would only attract, these products would only speak to one target audience. So we need to broaden the people working with tech, and they lack inspiration. They lack role models also within the business. So when they come here, we invite company leaders within the sector who really wants to attract these youngsters as well. Ooh. So they come here, they get the coding education, and we've had over 800 students just this year who've come. Every Tuesday we invite them for free. We bring them lunch, and companies invest in Space Academy, so they are paying for that. So it's a non-profit.
Well, this is brilliant. Just in one of the previous sessions here today, we were talking about the lack of engineers and also coders. Because if we're going to make this leap into the future in a sustainable way with electrification and all sorts of product development and technology advancements, we absolutely need people with software knowledge.
And it's also it's a good job. You know, we had the students from a less fortunate area outside of Stockholm here last week, and one of the pupils said to the CEO of IBM, Vahid Sohali, who also was a refugee coming to Sweden when he was 17. And then this student had his hand up and he wanted to ask a question. He said, do I need to learn all the rivers in Africa to be able to work at IBM? It's like,
that's a great question.
No, you can skip geography as long as you do English, do your homework on math, and then do coding, and you're welcome to come and work for us. So I think there's a need for this bridge between the companies and a group of young people who really could make a difference in the tech business.
What a great story. Great work, indeed. And this has been our home office, not just yours, will be for this entire week. Why did you choose to work with us? We don't have time.
That was an easy yes from us. We're very honored to have you here. The Stockholm 50 is so important week for everyone, and for us just to be able to host this event is amazing. It goes in line with everything that we stand for. So very happy.
That's terrific. And people might wonder, how big is this LED screen? I mean, is it the biggest in
the world? It's actually the largest permanently installed 8K screen in the world now.
See, that's what I thought.
These things move fast, though. But it's 100 square meters. It's pretty nice, isn't it?
Well, I've been working as a program host for many, many years, and this is the most fabulous stage I've been in terms of LED. Amazing, amazing. So, if you look into the future, you've been open how long now?
4 months.
So this is a big event early in your career as a venue here, as a space.
Very much so.
So what are you looking forward to in the future I mean, you talk about the inclusivity and also other aspects. How can you further sort of expand your sustainability ambitions?
Our dream is to see a billboard where you have a unicorn, and there's one white young lady from a rich area, and then maybe a refugee family, a brought up guy from another suburb, and someone would ask them, but how did you meet? How come you started your company, and how did you meet? And they met at space. So that's our dream, that we can really connect. That's our vision. Yeah.
But we have been talking a lot about vision here today, and the need to have visions. So I'm going to ask you a question that all the speakers here have gotten more or less in some version. It might be tricky, but from your perspective, as an individual and also head of this fabulous space, what would you like the outcome of the Stockholm +50 to become? What would you like it to focus on?
Focus is the right thing. I hope that it will put focus on important environmental and sustainable questions.
Enough talk, huh?
Enough talk.
And for those of you that are curious, of course, the doors are open here during our event. So you have to just register, and you can join in the audience. You can also, of course, watch this space online. But the venue is very, very open and very accessible. And how do you find it physically for those that might be in the vicinity of Stockholm? People might be watching and they're going to the...
so this is in the very city center of Stockholm. It's at Sergels Torg, which is close to the Grand Central Station. So, and it's right in the opposite of the big culture center here in Stockholm. So we're really close neighbors. We also collaborate together with them. We joke about them being the analog culture center and us being the digital. They are very digital as well, but so we complement each other. But so it's right in the middle of Stockholm.
So one final question: what is the most fun with your work here?
Sorry,
what is the most fun with your work here?
All the people
we always have to bring in some fun when we make difficult
this
transitions.
Is fun. You can imagine my job is like one day I sit with pupils, like I said, talking about rivers in Africa and their future. And then I meet you and listen to all of this that's been said this week. Very exciting. And then we have eSport finals. We had the FIFA, the World Champions League finals here on Friday last week. I was here with my son, finally proved my job.
Can imagine you did.
Yeah, finally. So it's just the mix of everything. I feel very fortunate.
Well, we feel fortunate to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Åsa.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. So, we move on now. And what's coming up next is something we have actually never done on a We Don't Have Time broadcast, not in this size anyway. And we are very excited to introduce what we call the Dragonfly's Den. And it's a den where we will bring up a selection of We Don't Have Time partners to pitch their climate solutions to a panel of climate communication experts. And we have asked the speakers to bring their best arguments and communication tricks to try to convince us of the climate value of their solution. And they each have 5 minutes. And we have our panel, and they will then analyze the pitch and give the speaker a score between 1 and 5 green hearts. So the 3 finalists from today and Sunday get the opportunity to expand upon their solution in a 30-minute deep dive in our next edition of Climate Action News 101. And the opportunity to pitch at COP27. And, the winner, that's a secret for now. And I'm looking here over to the shoulder to my tech team here. Is the jury ready to join? No? We have a break before we ask the jury to join. So stay with us and we'll get back with the jury when they're ready to join. See you in a bit.
A distant sound, closer, soon it's all around. Heal me. Time is running out. Come on, tell them what it's all about. We're running out of time. We're running out of air. We gotta keep it clean. Show me that you care. Wherever you are, you got to wake up. United as a nation. Come on. We don't have
We grow up, and we play. We invent new ways of doing things, and we collaborate. We prepare for that special date, and we care for each other. We do whatever it takes, but our world is on fire, and our future is at stake. We don't have time to wait, but no country, business, or individual can fix this on their own. Together,
Cato.
Pamoja. We can set things straight. Let's act. Through the power of many, we can make change happen. Let's encourage sustainable solutions. Let's suggest new ways of doing things and demand bad practices to stop. We all unite behind the one thing that matters: to save our world. Will you join us?
We are in a climate emergency, and we are very far from where we need to be.
Welcome to the second Exponential Climate Action Summit.
This decade is crucial for the future of us all.
The outcome for humanity could actually spell disaster.
There are no jobs on a dead planet.
And that's why waiting is not an option.
We're not recovering in a green way as we had hoped last Earth Day.
Poor communities are the one really facing the biggest burden of climate effects.
World Bank estimates that every year we need $4 trillion of capital in emerging and developing economies to pay for the mitigation and adaptation needs.
Personally, I don't believe the fossil fuel industry should continue to be allowed to operate the way it's been operating for the last several decades.
The vast majority of green products on the market today create new profits for investment firms, but do absolutely nothing to fight climate change.
We have to transform the 55% greenhouse gas reduction target that we now have at the European level, the declaration that we're getting from other countries, including Biden today, to halve their emissions, into actions.
So we need strong climate action from business, we need strong climate action from finance. I will encourage every company, every financial institution to join the race to zero immediately.
Investing in a low-carbon, a resilient economy is actually an enormous opportunity right now.
The winners will be the ones creating positive impact.
And what we do at Tine is we offer investment options in solar energy projects in emerging markets.
So FinTech is helping resolve access issues for the financially excluded while addressing climate change issues at the same time.
The key here is to put at least the same amount of determination behind actions to achieving this target as we do for major financial or business targets that the companies typically steered on.
So we don't have time, but we do have solutions.
When you scale this solution, in fact, we will save money. We will increase our productivity.
It's a $100 trillion plus economy, the greatest opportunities ever.
That is how we change things together. Your opinions will also be a rating on our platform, where those business and organizations that are doing good climate action will get a better climate score compared to the ones not doing enough. This is going to change how corporations compete.
This top line is 200 to 300 green growth companies that are delivering much better results while taking down our footprint.
Young people have demonstrated that campaigns on the ground can actively shape where the money goes.
We want to be the provider that shows to the company, its employees, that you can make a change with your savings.
We now got 87 asset managers with $37 trillion of assets. That's more than a third of global assets committed to net zero by 2050, and 43 banks with $29 trillion.
The drive to net zero is the growth story of the 21st century.
And the time to act is now.
And about 73% globally of all used clothing is being incinerated or landfilled today.
Our food systems are failing massively, both people and planet.
In 40, 50 years, the glass age will sort of be over because we don't have any sand left to produce glass.
So ultimately, over 90% of all that hard-won stuff we use slips through our fingers and ends up as waste.
Welcome to the third Exponential Climate Action Summit broadcast.
All together, we have an amazing opportunity to create a sustainable future by transitioning to a society based on circular principles.
We use 95% less water than traditional farming.
Reusing products has given us a revenue growth of, on average, 20% per year.
So we decided to design for circularity and eliminate the concept of waste.
We want to create a climate neutral car by 2030.
that's removing 1.54 kilos of carbon per bottle.
You have to understand the life cycle impact to know if it's better to use and reuse or if it's better to recycle and use the material another time.
The problem, though, is that the nitrogen that we produce are we not allowed to use today. Because today's legislation, if you're going to use something, it depends on origin and not the quality. And if it has been waste, it is banned.
What governments should do is to ban landfill possibilities.
Today, reused materials very often are more expensive than virgin materials.
Cars have now absorbed almost all the space in cities, all the rights of way, all the parking space.
We can't wait for 2025, 2030. We need to change now.
Digitalization is one of the great opportunities to actually transform the world as we know it right now.
We need to have a behavioral change and mindset, not only in the companies, but also in the consumers and in the governments.
What if we could change the system together? We believe by rewarding climate solutions and warning all the polluters, we will make it profitable to save our planet and super expensive to destroy it.
The circular economy is gaining traction around the world.
We are working on a system of laws and improvements to the system so that you can fix everything.
More than 2/3 of the world economy are covered now by net zero targets.
The initiative is really about bringing together the leading companies that will transform, disrupt, and innovate our way along that pathway.
We are ready to make this transformation the greatest collab in human history.
The future is in our hands.
So what will this require then for us to achieve in Glasgow? But this must be the moment when we say goodbye to yesterday's provision of energy.
We are going to be there by train, of course, and we're going to do daily broadcasts in 2 weeks.
We are, of course, really happy to team up with We Don't Have Time during COP26.
We're there really to drive up numbers.
COP26, of course, is critical.
I think the most important thing will be for all member states to understand that the material use should be a priority in their climate policies.
And we will be there and shine a light on what's happening.
For many years, we thought that the oil, coal, and gas, the fossil fuel industry, the transport, the telco industry, that was the biggest cause of human suffering and greenhouse gas emissions. Absolutely not. The biggest industry that touches every human being on Earth, human suffering, human health, and greenhouse gas emissions is the agriculture, seafood, and beverage industries and how we produce and consume food. And so it's the biggest pivotal moonshot moment in history that we have. 9 years left to really fix it. And so I say global food reformist. I think the entire food system needs to be reformed.
For every 2 tons of food produced on the planet, 1 ton is wasted. So around 1/3 of everything that's produced on the planet is wasted. It's over 1 billion tons of food every single year. Now, when you talk about those big statistics, it's hard to get your head around them. So let's just talk about them in a bit different way. You need an area the size of China to grow the food that we throw away every single year.
I think like all these like purpose-driven companies has to help their consumers to find the aha moments, because we are not enough as perfect consumers. We have to become active citizens as we are running out of time and have to act so extremely fast within this.
We
restoring nature is so low tech, and in a time where everything has to be high tech and complicated, I believe people are in dire need of solutions. So yes, I do believe that consumer-facing communication, whether it comes from brands or from NGOs like ourselves or from governments, is super important when it comes to really changing the mindset and really making this the decade of doing.
It was a great meeting, but the highlight of it is that Jeff Bezos, who was at the meeting, made a big announcement to invest $1 billion for landscape restoration in Africa. I think we need that magnitude of funding. So Jeff Bezos' commitment will come together with another commitment made by 8 financial institutions. So in total now we have $20 billion committed for land restoration in the Sahel from 2021 to 2025.
When we look at what the dietary people say, the specialists, they're looking at the nutrients of this kind of food and they see it's great. You know, it's basically beans in different varieties that you have refined. So you will have a high protein content, you will get a lot of nutrients in it, so we know beans are good for health. Mm-hmm. And then we can argue about, could we produce those kind of foods in a better way? Of course we can, and we will. So I think moving away from as a society, moving away from some of the large-scale farming, monocrops.
And now, welcome to the Dragonfly's Den, where we will bring up a selection of We Don't Have Time partners to pitch their climate solutions to this panel that's just going to be joining us very shortly, of climate communications experts. And we have asked the speakers to bring their best arguments and communications tricks to try and convince us of the climate value of their solution, and they have each 5 minutes. And our panel will then analyze the pitch and give the speakers a score between 1 and 5 green hearts. And the 3 finalists from today, and also from Sunday, because we do have a Dragon's Den on Sunday too, they will get the opportunity to expand upon their solution in a 30-minute deep dive in our next edition of Climate Action News One-on-One. And they will also get the opportunity to pitch at COP27. And the winner of it all, well, that's a secret for now, what's going to happen to the winner. And it's now my pleasure to introduce the panel members. We'll have with us Ingmar Rentzhog, CEO and founder of We Don't Have Time. Please take a seat in the sofa, Ingmar. We also have with us Sweta Chakraborty, who is president of the US operations of We Don't Have Time. Please take a seat next to Ingmar. Sweta. And we also have with us on Zoom Boaz Paldi from UNDP. Let's see if we can connect with Boaz on Zoom. There you go. Wonderful to see you, Boaz. How are you? I think you need to unmute, Boaz, or maybe it's the tech room that needs to unmute you. We still can't hear you, but while we wait for your sound to be connected, sorry about that, Boaz, we'll introduce the next panel member, and it's Sergio Fernandez de Cordoba from the Public Foundation. And let's try your sound, see if that works. Not yet, not yet. And we're also expecting another jury member, Anita Soina, who will be joining us. She is at the preparing for the venue in Älvsjö, the big Stockholm +50 event, probably getting her accreditation today. So she might be running in a little bit short of breath any second now. So Ingmar, before we wait for Boaz and Sergio's sound to be on, could you explain again how this is run, the voting?
Sorry, just kidding. Yes, I can. We're going to hear a lot of solutions here, and I think I've been working in finance before, We at a Time, and in finance there is a format called Dragon's Den, where companies, entrepreneurs are pitching. And you have a jury that say if they are going to get the money or not. We're not going to give money, we're not going to invest. Instead, we're going to have organizations and companies pitching climate solutions, because we really need climate solutions. And what we're going to do is to vote on those solutions. And we're going to use the review system.
Tell us about the voting system.
And we're not going to give anyone a climate warning. So it's from 1 to 5 climate love. Each of us is going to give out. You don't have those symbols with you, but you could maybe do a love sign or something like that.
Yes.
But it's not just about what we are doing, it's also about all the viewers and all the users. So everyone can vote.
Yes.
So in order to engage with this, download the We Don't Have Time app or go to wedon'thavetime.org, the webpage, and press a button there where you see what's new. And you will see those climate pictures, and you can press agree on those you like.
And one push on the agree button equals a green heart.
Exactly.
Yes.
So we will, in the end, we will take all the jury answer and all the people's vote, and we will have a winner.
So you'll be counting the votes, Ingmar, and counting on you.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
excellent.
Exactly. Perfect.
Let's hear if we can. Let's see if we can listen to Boaz now. Boaz Paldi from UNDP.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Hallelujah. Wonderful. Excellent. And Sergio.
Another good reason. Another reason to wanting to be in Stockholm, that there would be no tech problems, but
well,
almost as good.
And it actually it looks like you're sort of in a heli balloon hovering over the city hall of Stockholm anyway in the image. So it looks like you're here. And we're very happy that you're on the jury today, Boaz. And Sergio, please tell us your location. It looks like you're also hovering over Stockholm, but you're not.
Exactly. I'm actually right above you. I'm in New York City. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Terrific. So we're still waiting for the juror, Anita Soina. She's from the Maasai community, and she's also running for office in Kenya. So I hope she's running this way very soon. But let's start with the first pitch. Well, maybe you know what? Let's hold it a little bit, because she might be on her way. So Sweta, you are the president of our U.S. operations, since this was actually the first time that you met us and the team.
That's right.
Yes. So tell us about what you've experienced so far here in Stockholm, and what you're expecting here from this meeting.
It really is bizarre to translate faces from Zoom. That's all you've interacted with for years. And then to see people in the flesh has been a little bit discombobulating, but incredible. So it's been a fantastic experience. And I'm so excited about this session, because I want those who are pitching to bring the passion. I want to see real excitement about the solutions that they're going to put forward, because this is a positive platform and this is a positive group of people. I felt that via Zoom all these years. So to be able to go from Zoom to be in person, that's just amplifying the excitement that I am personally feeling, and generally just what you can feel in the presence of good people and good work and solutions and positivity, and that together we are going to be able to overcome this climate crisis. So I'm really excited to see what these contestants are going to bring to the table, because we've set a high bar here with this team, and we want to get behind and support those that really are going to help accelerate the solutions to the climate crisis.
Excellent. So Boaz, from your perspective, from UNDP, what are you going to look out for here, and the contestants? What do you want to see?
I think, solutions that can be scalable are extremely important. There's a lot of fantastic solutions out there. What we need to be careful of is just the idea that this can scale, that this can really reach the right amount of people in the right ways, and really have the impact that we need. At this point in the crisis, we need to reach as many people as we can, as quickly as we can. We need to have as many solutions as we possibly can, because we are at a very critical time, and we don't have time.
Well, thank you very much, Boaz Paldi from UNDP. And Sergio, from your perspective, what would you like to see from the contestants here?
I echo a little bit of what Boaz said, but I think it's also important that that these opportunities have sort of somewhat of an economic engine that are scalable. And considering sort of multi-partner, multi-stakeholder approach, but a lot of what we see with some solutions is that it's usually very monolithic. And an opportunity here with so many climate innovations is an opportunity to really make sure that they are aligning all of the different partners and bringing in a multi-stakeholder approach.
Multi-stakeholder approach, indeed. So I just hear in my ear here that Anita unfortunately could not come. So we have a jury of 4, which is good enough. So let's bring up the first contestant. And I'm going to introduce her properly. It is Tine Cato, and she is strategy manager at Swedish clean tech company Azelio. So please give Tine an extremely warm hand. This is a nervous moment here. So a warm hand. And you have the floor here on this table, and I'll just step to the side, and you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So some 30 years ago, I was a kid growing up on a farm in Denmark near a town called Vejle. And our house, it was heated and powered by this very unreliable oil boiler. And it could make an end to a nice hot shower when you least expected it. To this day, that smell of oil, it reminds me of my childhood and what really feels like an ancient time, as if it was a million years ago. With the fast technological developments we've experienced since, and I mean, you can go to Mars with Elon Musk, and you can live your whole life through your iPhone. You'd think burning oil for power was by now an extinct technology, but no. Fossil fuels still supply roughly 80% of the world's energy. And you might ask with just a hint of frustration in your voice, why is this when we have perfectly mature and cost-competitive renewable alternatives like wind and solar? The quick answer is nature has its limitations. Rivers, they run dry. It's not always windy or sunny. But our homes and industries, they need power 24/7 regardless. So what do we do when there is a mismatch between what can be supplied and what's demanded? Today, it is bridged by fossil fuels. Tomorrow, we solve it with energy storage. And this is where Azelio comes into the picture. We're a Swedish clean tech company, and we've developed a long-duration energy storage technology solution. It works more or less like a battery. So you can charge it with any renewable, say solar PV during the day. You store that energy as heat and then convert the heat into clean power that you can consume when you need it. So let me tell you a little bit about how this works out in real life. Imagine your name is Joe and you operate a yogurt factory in South Africa. The grid is very unreliable, and that means you have power cuts every single day. You have to throw out entire batches of newly produced yogurt because you can't pasteurize it or keep it cold. So you're, of course, a problem solver. You want to solve this problem, so you install solar PV on the rooftop of your factory. And that can supply you and cover your energy needs from roughly 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon when the sun is very strong. But for the remaining part of the day, you will need to run a diesel generator just to generate power to cover your needs. Not only is the diesel generator smelly, noisy, and expensive to run, it's also polluting. these sort of cases we see all the time. And this is where Azelio's technology can really make a difference by replacing diesel and allowing for a reliable and clean power supply around the clock. So, not only is long-duration energy storage technology an enabler to the clean transition, it is an absolute necessity to make our local businesses prosper at the same time. This was recently confirmed in a report by McKinsey, stating that technologies like ours are absolutely crucial to decarbonize the power sector. This is a mission that represents a $1 to $3 trillion investment opportunity. So let's do it. Our technology is ready and it's third-party verified. We are now going to market with a network of very strong partners to develop clean energy infrastructure projects that will make it so much easier for commercial customers like Joe to operate and scale his business with a reliable and clean power supply. And so will the local farmer producing food, putting food on your table. So will the water treatment plant that is working hard to make sure we can reuse our scarce water supply. We are a NASDAQ-listed company with roughly 200 employees. And we have developed this unique technology to solve one of the biggest problems to get to 100% renewable energy in our energy mix. We hope you want to join us in this mission, and thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Tine. That was great. Yeah. And it's also great that we have a new juror here, Nick Nuttall. You probably already know him. He is also a program host. Tine, please stay.
Oh,
please stay with me. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He is.
I just want to say that I'm not from the Maasai community in Kenya, which is pretty obvious. But I did live in Kenya for 13 years. So I'm standing in for Anita.
Excellent. Thanks for doing this, Nick. Absolutely wonderful. So we now have 5 minutes for questions, reflections from the jurors, and also the verdicts. How many hearts you will be receiving, Tine. So how about we start with Boaz Paldi for some reflections or questions to Tine.
I think the initiative is the right way to go. I think the more renewable energy we have available to people like Joe, the better off we'll be. This transition needs to happen quickly. I believe that the statistics are right. 80% of all energy usage comes from fossil fuels still, and that's very, very, very harmful, and we need to stop that as quickly as we possibly can. And I know that storage is a big issue in that whole debate. I'm not an expert on the field of storage, of energy storage, so I don't know how the technology actually works. But on the surface of it, I love the idea because it really reaches to the heart of the issue here, one of the most difficult issues, which is the energy mix that people use on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you very much, Boaz Paldi. Let's turn to Sergio from the Public Foundation for comments or questions.
Yes, no, thank you. I actually had, thank God I am on digital because I had to Google it. And I had to look up and understand what is the solution, because as Boaz said, yes, we do need a lot of storage, but I'm trying to, in the context of this presentation, trying to understand what is the actual solution, right, that makes this, obviously it's already a publicly traded company, it's doing really well, but how is this going to be one of the solutions that is going to change the world, right? And I'm just trying to understand, and maybe if you could, sort of, if we could have a presenter give us a little bit more on the actual solution.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, Tine.
So this solution, it can provide energy storage of 8 to 18 hours. So that means if you can only produce power from solar PV, for instance, for 6 hours during the day, really cover your demand profile, then this solution makes sure you have clean power around the clock. The commercially viable technology out there to store energy is lithium-ion batteries, and they're really great for storing power for a few hours. But if you if you have a demand profile through the night, and most commercial businesses do, many factories do, hotels do, they need AC during the night as well for their customers. Agriculture need irrigation, they need to water, typically also throughout the night. Then you need a solution like this if you want to go renewable. So that's a little bit about the value proposition and why it's important with long duration energy storage. I hope that answers it more or less.
No, but I still want to actually understand the solution.
Yes, how it works.
You're giving the solution of solving the overnight problem, that's basic, right? What is the actual solution?
So the solution is, we call it the test pot. It stands for Thermal Energy Storage on Demand. So it's a physical product, and we store the energy in aluminum, recycled aluminum, in a big tank. So it's like 3 times 3 meters, the tank. And you charge that aluminum with solar PV, and you use that electricity to heat up the aluminum to 600 degrees. And then the storage tank will keep that heat and convert that heat via a Stirling engine to clean power when you then need it. So that's what it looks like, and that's how it works. And this is 13 kilowatts of output, and it can provide that for 13 hours a day. So 169 kilowatt hours one test pod can supply. Then it's modular and scalable, so you can basically fit as many test pods into your power park or hybrid energy system as required, combined with solar PV to cover your needs.
Thank you, Tine. We need to go to a vote now. I know you wanted to ask something, Nick, but we have a very strict timeline.
I just want to know what it costs, but I mean, I think that's kind of important, yeah?
Yeah. All right, quickly.
Sorry?
How much does it cost?
The cost.
Oh, we cannot disclose that without an NDA, sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Right.
So now we're going to the voting section here. Sweta, how many hearts?
Okay, I'm going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4.
4 hearts. Nick, how many hearts?
How many hearts can we actually...
1 to 5.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Excellent. Boaz, please.
I'll go with 4 hearts as well.
Thank you. And how about you, Sergio?
I'm going to go with 3. I'm still missing information.
All right. And the head of the jury, Ingmar Rentzhog.
I'm in the same field as Boaz. I work with communication, so I also go with 3. I love the solution, but you should try to have the answer you got afterwards in the presentation, because we need energy storage. But what is your solution different from all the rest? What are you putting to the table? I think you answered that very good, but it was not in the presentation. Yeah. So next time 5, but this time 3.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tine. Thank you. Excellent. Next up is Sandra Frank from Arvet. Sandra is leading Arvet's global movement towards a massive change in the global building industry. You have the floor, Sandra. You're right here, and this is your table, and fire away.
Thank you. So I'm Sandra Frank, and I'm from a small company called Arvet. And 10 years ago, we actually built this house. It's totally out of timber, and it's about 20 minutes from here. We didn't realize what we did, actually, to be totally honest, because those 2 first houses have totally changed our company. We've had about 125,000 people visiting from 150 countries. So we kind of went from a developer and a construction company to some communication, inspiration kind of company. But we realized one thing, and that is how important it is to build or show good examples. It took the Swedish forest 44 seconds to grow all the material for this house, which means that we didn't need to use any fossil materials for the upcoming of the house. So we also think it's about time to start talking about fossil materials, not only fossil fuels, because both concrete, steel, and glass is totally fossil materials that will never grow back again. So just thinking about the thing that the Swedish forest alone produces enough material for building a house like this for 50 people, 50 families to live in. It produces enough materials for that every minute, 24 hours a day. And we got the question to go down to UN Habitat's first assembly in Nairobi a couple of years ago, and to talk about why we need to change the building industry into a renewable one. And I thought, okay, it has been a thing to talk about this in Sweden because we have the forest. But how can I go down to Kenya and tell them to build their houses out of timber when they don't have the forests? And I went back in our history and realized that about 100 years ago, a little bit more than 100 years ago, Sweden was in the same situation as many people in Kenya. We had deforestation, heavy deforestation. People had no food and was flooding the country because of poverty. And our government at the moment, they realized that we needed to do something about deforestation and made new legislation that said for each tree you take down, you have to plant a new one. And today we're planting about 3 to 4. And the forest is growing by 15% each year, and we have more than double the amount as forest as we had 100 years ago. And that is a story. The forest industry, the forests, has actually built the world well-known Swedish welfare system. And then we could go down to Kenya and we could tell everybody that we all need to start replanting. And that is a task for everybody globally. It's not just, but here in Sweden, we have the knowledge and the experience, and we can truly be inspirators. An inspiration, yes. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Sandra. I'm coming from this direction now. Yeah. I'm turning first to Nick Nuttall, since he lived in Kenya for many years, and just to give some reflections or questions to Sandra's presentation.
Yeah, you gave a very interesting point about Kenya. Yeah, there was a time 100 years ago when things were very different due to all kinds of factors. I have really, though, not a really Kenyan question, but I have a Swedish question, which is, okay, if you left your forests and didn't chop them down or didn't cut them down sustainably, maybe I can be polite, for timber houses, what would be the carbon benefit of just leaving the trees rather than building the house?
Oh, it would be... there is another very important thing that I think we need to talk about. While the tree is growing, it's eating carbon, because that is wood. Mm-hmm. But when it's fully grown, it's not eating carbon anymore. So for a short period of time, that would be a good thing. But after a while, when the tree is getting older and dying, it loosens the carbon again. So what we need to do is to take the trees down. We need to have just as we grow our food, we need to grow our building materials. So if we take it down and we replant, we start that circle over again, and we can store carbon in our future cities.
Good.
Thank you, Sandra. I'd like to turn to Sweta Chakraborty now for comments or questions.
No, we love these types of solutions. We are big fans on the platform of anywhere that we are reforesting and we're supporting reforestation, especially the building industry is so carbon intensive, so if we can find solutions to that, this is going to be an increasing issue as the population increases on the planet. And if we can find something that's working regionally and scale it, that's fantastic. My question for you is, have we looked at the entire value chain, though, for building, right? So the actual product itself can really provide a solution, but what about transporting the timber? What about how the timber is cut down? So how do we actually really get the big picture on the carbon intensity of this type of end product?
Thank you, Sweta.
Yeah, that's a very good question. We actually took, we are going to build a Nobel Center here in Stockholm, and we've been doing our best to look for that it should be built out of timber. Because what happens in a city when you need to transport as much material as to a construction site, it's a total traffic jam. And with this house that you saw, it was a very close up, but here in the city, we lowered the transport to the construction site to 1/10. So it was, instead of 100 trucks, it was 10 of them. Because wood is a light material, and it's coming like panels. So we prefabricated as much as possible where the forests are in Sweden up in the north, and transported them down to the city, and then we could mount the building in 7 months instead of normally 24 months, so it's 1/3 of the time. The disturbance of the city in that case is so much less. But as you can see here, Stockholm is full of water. If we would have built right by the water, like the Nobel Center will be, that would take 1 ship.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sandra. Let's go to a vote, and let's start this time with the voting from Boaz, Paldi, please. How many hearts would you like to distribute?
So I have a slight issue with the idea that all growth forests don't sequester carbon. I know this to be a fact. We all love all growth forests. We protect them. In Brazil, in the Açores ecosystem, they're an incredibly important part of the solution. So although I love this idea of kind of like a no fossil product idea, I would rather not cut down trees even in a sustainable way, because that way, and propagate the idea that there is no carbon sequestration from old growth. So I'm going to give it 1 heart.
Thank you, Boaz. That was tough. Tough love. And Sergio? I think we lost Sergio's sound here.
Sergio, are you on pause? I'm on mute.
Here you go. No, still?
Yeah, don't touch. The host keeps muting, and I'm unmuting.
All right.
So I'm going to also kind of I have 2 comments and statements before I make a vote.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear anything about the utilization of recycled materials, right, across anywhere in the project. And the element as well, when you talked about Kenya, where is the plan to reinvest some of the portion of the business model into reforestation around the world? I didn't hear anything about the sort of do and rebuild. And also when you said, you're planting 1 tree for 1 tree taken down, I think that's not good enough. If you're going to take 1 down, then you should be replanting 10, 20, 50, 100. So I'm going to go with Boaz as well, and I'm going to give it 1 heart.
Okay, thank you, Sergio. And how about Nick? We need to move on. How many hearts?
Well, I'm going to give a little bit more, simply because I think this isn't an old growth forest story. I think this is actually basically Swedish plantations, which is what you've got. So I'm going to give it a 3.
Thank you. And how about Sweta? Sweta, what do you say?
Wow. People need places to live. And we need to be realistic. We have to be able to build sustainably. And until we get to the point where the entire value chain is truly respecting of the reality of the missions that we are putting out, I think this is a good interim move towards the right direction. So 4 for me.
Thank you. And how about Ingmar?
You forgot this. We need to show it.
Yes.
This was a tough one because we have a little bit different views here. I'm Swedish and I was raised on a farm and my family owns forest. And I mean, you could grow food and you could grow trees. The difference is that you eat food and you build houses with trees. Of course, we should protect old forest with high natural value. But we can grow trees and we can use it responsible. So I don't think this is the solution for all buildings. We will not have enough trees, but I do think this is a great solution to improve how to build houses in a much more renewable ways, because trees are renewable. They're growing up. So I would give 5 to balance it a little bit.
Trying to balance it out from the Americans, yeah?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandra. Thank you so much. For those of you watching, please vote on the We Don't Have Time app, because everything will be accumulated. And as I said initially, there's nice stuff to win for the pitching companies that end up 1, 2, and 3 when we finish on Sunday. So now the next person up, we have Gustaf Lind, who's Secretary General of WWF Sweden. Gustaf, take it away.
So thank you very much, and great to be here. As you may know, the IPCC in its latest report stated that it's an urgent need for climate innovation and green tech in order to halve the emissions to 2030. And you know, many of these innovations are already here, but the problem is, you know, that they need to scale up and get into the market. And that is what we want to do with something called the Climate Innovation Activator. You will break your necks trying to watch our
We're very flexible.
Are you
very
okay?
flexible.
Perfect. Well, this is actually not an app, but we could say this is like an improved Tinder for climate innovation. And what we will do exactly as Tinder, we want to bring partners together. But you know, it will not be based on just a first glance and a swipe, but we will take thorough analysis, who fits with who. And then we will be there for that embarrassing first date and help the partners to talk to each other and reach each other in different ways. And we will not leave them after the first date. We will be there on the third and the fourth date also to help them when, you know, when all the problems comes up after a while. We are there to help. And this is how we intend to do it. To the left, you see innovators, small startups often, and they need to push their product out on the market. And they have support. There are many incubator, accelerators to support them. This is quite established. On the other side, over here, we have the demand owner who needs innovation and a solution. And the most important ones are companies or corporations, companies or cities who have the greatest needs for these. And the problem why this innovation doesn't enter the market is that they enter the valley of death, as it is called. And it's difficult to scale up innovations from an idea in a startup to a sort of full product being used by a major company or a city. And we want to address this valley of death bottleneck to make this possible in a much better way. And we do so by creating an activator. And could you please remove the boxes so you can see that it says activator down there? Perfect. There you see, activator solves the problem. And this activator is similar to an incubator, break necks again, but it will be on the demand side and work for maximum climate impact. And the activator, that means WWF, will do 4 different things. First, we will improve the customer's analysis how to reach the 1.5 degree target. And then we will matchmake what they need with the innovators through the extensive network we have. And then we will calculate the climate impact. This is difficult and not done properly often, because we need to assure that the innovation there is right for their demand. And this is a problem today. And then, we are not there only for the first date. We will help them solve problems coming up on procurement, financing, and other parts. So, we will start small in the fall with our activators. We're looking for funding for this project. When or if we have funding, we will scale it up in Sweden to show that this is a successful way forward. And when we have shown this success, we will scale it up globally in the WWF network. We have offices in 100 countries, so a lot of possibilities for scaling up. So we don't have time to wait for innovation. That is my pitch. Wow. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Gustaf. Excellent presentation. I think I'm going to go like this. Who has the most urgency for comments or questions? Because we don't have time. Ingmar.
I can do it.
Yes, go ahead.
I love this idea because I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm used to speak to those incubators. It's so many out of them out there, and most of them take so much time to engage with, and in the end they can't do so much in order to really scale when I as an entrepreneur need it. And what everyone is asking about is where is the market, where is the demand? That is the biggest problem for many climate solutions. The market is there, the demand is there, but they are struggling to show that demand. I know so many examples. And here you have this activator that are doing the opposite, finding the ones that have the solutions and give them proven demand. I think this is a brilliant project. So it was more of a comment than a question.
All right. Nick, you were signaling.
Well, I just really more about the presentation, really, because I got a bit distracted because this man said that he would be with these people on so many dates. And I was thinking of this threesome and whether it was going to really work with what he described really effectively as you know, climate Tinder 2.0. So I was a bit, I got a bit lost. But just my one comment, I suppose, would be is this not available already? I mean, having worked for the United Nations for many years, there were always incubation hubs and matchmaker hubs. And so what is it that you've got that's really, really going to be different? Because you haven't really got anything right now. You've got a really good idea. But, you said you're waiting for funding, right? So I can't quite see what the value added is to all those other ones that are out there.
Well, actually,
apart from the fact you turn up on dates with people on the regular basis.
I will be like your mother on your third date. No, so actually what we have been working on the incubator and innovation side for 15 years in different ways in the WWF network. But we've seen that sort of something, as you stated, they sort of struggle to get into the market and try to analyze where is the problem and found it on the other side. So no, there are none doing exactly what we want to do. There are sort of overlaps, and we will cooperate with those that overlap with us because we very much base how we work on partnership and cooperation. But what we have is the human resources. We have staff who can do the analysis, and we've already done so when we work with agencies doing analysis for them. So with these excellent colleagues, one is sitting over there, we think with the human resources, we can easily scale up small, and then obviously we need to recruit more to scale up large. But scaling up is the idea here.
So the matchmakers of the matchmakers.
Well, we are not matchmakers. We are matchmaking and supporting and analyzing. So not only bringing together, but sort of the deeper analysis is important because the demand owner don't know what they need always. They only do the first glance and swipe,
Thank you. We have time for one more comment before we go to a vote. Looks like Boaz wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I love the idea. Like as Ingmar said, this is absolutely needed. It's a great idea. I would just go back to kind of like just your presentation again. It's I would just make it a tiny bit more understandable to the layman among us. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not used to these kind of solutions. I know that UNDP itself has various innovation hubs, and I echo Nick's what is the added value. I would have liked this to see the added value up front in your presentation more, but the idea itself is very solid. So not a question, just a remark.
All right, and let's go to the voting. What is your? How many hearts, Boaz?
I'll give it 3 hearts.
3 hearts. Sergio, how many hearts, please?
I also want to just kind of echo really quick. I know we're rushing through this, but I want to make sure that there's an opportunity to weigh in. I think that the presentation definitely needs a little bit more kind of oomph. What I really liked about the message that I pulled away from this was really the procurement and matchmaking. The financing will happen, right? Coming, especially from your role and the job at hand that you have. I think that, what I really liked about it was your personal entrepreneurship and your innovation from inside. And really you have the infrastructure, you have the platform to attract others to come. So I think that I also give it a 3. And I think that, no, actually I give it a 4, because I think that, what you have, I think a lot of the challenges that you face, a lot of people don't realize it. So it's not like you're just an entrepreneur, but you're an entrepreneur.
Thank you, Sergio. Sweta.
I think Ingmar's response is reflective of a sympathy that we similarly faced, trying to put a concept forward that was very abstract and would have benefited from an example, something tangible. So that's some feedback that I would give you. I have a lot of sympathy for what you're trying to do. I think it's a great idea. I think the example is missing, and for that I will give a 3.
Thank you, Sweta. Nick?
Yeah, I should have got a point there, so I'm going to give it 1, 2, 3, because I got my heart here. So.
Excellent. And
my heart's in the right place.
Ingmar?
I love the solution. I think it was a good presentation. I understand it, but I'm also a little bit more into this. And I think the presentation was good, but it was too complicated picture. Show a nice photo of someone that needs solutions instead. So I give a 4. But the solution is brilliant.
Well, thank you very much for coming and pitching, Gustaf.
Yes.
Now we'd like to give a warm welcome to Simon Heneen and Daniel Röhme, co-founders of Beyond 9. Please join us here up on stage. You have your 5 minutes of glory here, so go ahead.
Okay, so warm welcome to our presentation of Beyond 9. Big thanks to We Don't Have Time team for the opportunity to talk about what we want to do here today. We are all here because we share common concerns about the future, a sense of urgency, and an ambition to make a difference whilst there's still time. Beyond 9 is born from that constructive impatience or frustration, if you so will. I'm Simon, this is Daniel, and together with Jonas, we are the founders of this venture. So we're here for a good reason. We want to give everyone the opportunity to become active investors into our common future together as a community.
So, during this pitch, we hope to be able to shed some light on what we believe to be a very new concept and efficient way for people and wallets of all sizes to make sure that we are able to get the future that we wish to see.
Yeah. After making changes to our lifestyle, changing our purchasing patterns, our means of transport, many of us still want to do more to change the society even faster.
So, what's left? What's left is our savings. How can we invest them? How can we make them grow? We know that capital is a very crucial part of actually getting the things turned or getting the change to happen that needs to happen.
So according to the UN, another $3.5 trillion are needed to fill the gap to reach the Paris Agreement every year, the so-called climate finance gap. And 30% of the required actions to reach Paris are so-called nature-based solutions. the sustainable management of ecosystems and natural resources. This has to increase manifold. We must do the most with what's already here in parallel with developing the next generation technology.
Yeah, okay, so we need more money, we need to invest it, but we also need to invest it in the right way. Through Beyond 9, we want to give people the possibility to do that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
So the public and private sectors constitute about 90% of the total climate finance today. Direct investments from individuals is just 10%, and the vast majority is into tech-based solutions like solar cells and electric cars. So we saw a need to activate people's savings more, something that we see as an untapped source to climate finance, and focus that on solutions with immediate impact.
But aren't there already hundreds and thousands of funds and services offering this? So why aren't they closing that gap?
Well, the short answer is that all sustainability is not sustainable. We have inexplicit measurement and reporting. We have confusion when it comes to terminology like ESG and impact. We have greenwashing. We have greenwashing. So, all in all, as an individual, it's more or less impossible to get clarity in what's what when you want to invest your savings into sustainability.
Okay, so what's our solution?
Let's buy future together. Alone, we don't have the means, but together, we can buy anything that we think is vital for the planet. Only together, we can buy more time, and thereby more future. And this can be done by enabling everyone's savings to work with the right things being the ones that both make the best impact with least delay at the same time as making your investment grow over time.
Yeah. Because just as the forest needs to continue to capture carbon, capital investments need to have some level of return to support its existence. And at Beyond 9, we believe that in order for people to be able to invest together, there needs to be some kind of a platform. That platform is Beyond 9. And we also believe that the best ideas for our future comes from people, not from smart investment bankers. And we still need the bankers. It's just that they're not the most creative ones when it comes to these things. So how does Beyond 9 enable this?
Well, this is done by having enthusiasts with a good immediate impact idea they want to realize, create investment cases. These are collected by Beyond 9 and presented and communicated to the general public. They are scrutinized, and the ones that add up are presented to the shareholders. Shareholders have a voting to select the ones they want to invest in. Beyond 9 issues shares to fund the investments. And anyone in the market who is interested in investing into immediate sustainability buys shares. Now we have bought future together.
So our investment philosophy is pretty simple. Act for tomorrow with what we have today. Potential future environmental benefits need to be scrutinized in the same way as capitals are, and there you have risk-reward ratios. So high risk, high reward due to uncertainty. Nature-based solutions is a low risk. We know we need it. We know we need more of it. So, and also any kind of asset which is in lack will, by simply by supply and demand, increase in value. I'm seeing that we're very far off our time here.
You are actually, so we must say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all right. It just has to be equal for everybody.
Yeah.
That's the rule. That's the name of the game. So let's see. Let's bring back Boaz and Sergio. And when we do that, Sergio, I'd like to start with you for remarks here.
There we go. You know, that's a really, that mute button has a personality of its own.
Oh, dear.
I wanted to better understand, you know, are you doing this as a sort of crowdfunding investment banking model solely focused on sustainability, or is that one of the verticals? I just wasn't sure. There wasn't any clarity on your direction.
If we try and answer, I think it's the flip of a crowdfunding. This is funding something with a crowd, not letting a crowd fund different things. This is about trying to come together and own together. So it's about, let's say, listing an investment company which has a very specific investment profile that invests into things which have just a strong let's say, monetary gain, but also on an environmental level. And with the focus on environmental gains today, that being that environmental factors should be looked at just as money. One kilogram of carbon dioxide bound today is more worth than 1 kilogram in 10 years. And we need to look at solutions in the same way, at least from our perspective.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let's take a comment from Ingmar Rentzhog, who has a background in the finance sector.
I love this idea, but the pitch needs to be improved.
What the hell is the crash?
And this is going to affect my score. You run 2 minutes over time, and we don't have time. But it's just that I will give you a tip. If I will do your pitch, I can do it in 15 seconds. It will be very easy. We have a whole financial market out there. They are now talking about that they're going to invest sustainable. They're providing so many products called ESG. It's a lot of bullshit. There's a list of Standard & Poor's, one of the biggest financial analyzed firm out there. They caused a financial crisis once and a lot of other stuff. Anyway, they have a list of the most 500 sustainable companies on this planet. And ExxonMobil are on top 10. Mm-hmm. Tesla is not even on that list. If you invest in a green fund with high ESG scores, I think many of you do here, unfortunately, you're investing in ExxonMobil and a lot of other shit that doesn't save us for the climate crisis. You have a solution for that, because what you're doing is you use people's money and you're investing them in climate solutions from people to people and no ESG bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
5 for Ingmar.
Yeah, 5 for Ingmar.
Yes.
Agree. Thank you, Ingmar, for saving our ass.
So we need to go to the voting. Yeah, very quick.
You mentioned technology, then you mentioned nature-based solutions. I'm not clear. Is it nature-based solutions?
This is very focused on nature-based solutions.
Okay.
Technology, I don't know. Did we mention it? I think
No. I don't need to know that. I just need to know it's nature-based solutions. Second question is, where do you make your profit? Because most people with nature-based solutions are trying to make profits out of the voluntary carbon market. Is that where the profit comes?
No. That's not all. What we're looking at is, or at least, now we're missing the point here. What we're trying to establish here is a platform that enables us as people to come together and make these investments. It's not the investments per se. We want to bring that platform to life. And with that, it's a pretty big thing to put a company on a market, or stock market, I mean, allowing it or making it possible for people to actually trade, for making that company possible to make acquisitions and those things. That is really the core of Beyond 9, with a very specific investment focus.
All right. We need to go to vote.
I'm sorry, that didn't really help your question.
No, it's all right, but I'll be voting in a second.
We're not that specific solution. That is what we want to invest into.
So
okay?
you're not investing in the nature-based solutions. You're facilitating a platform for that to happen.
For that, yes. Exactly.
Exactly. So Boaz, please, can I have your vote?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with the presentation. I totally agree that this is a needed solution, but Ingmar said it better than you guys did. So I'm going to have to go with a 2.
Thank you. Sergio, please.
Yeah, I think definitely, obviously, the presentation needs a little bit of help. I'm kind of also somewhere, you're doing crowd, not funding, but crowdsourcing. You're doing crowd collective, and I'm still kind of a little bit, mixed in understanding the value and then how your business model operates and how it's the scale I get. Yeah. So I'm going to stay with a 3, because I think you really need to work on just the presentation and what your value proposition. I understand the marketplace. We understand the sort of total addressable market. That's clear, and so that's my feedback.
Thank you. Sweta?
I think what separates you from a green fund that's available to potential investors is what Ingmar said and what you said right at the end. So that needs to be in the presentation very clearly. And I'm going to go with, and I don't fully understand how you're going to prioritize or who the experts are going to be. Sure, not investment bankers, they have a role to play, but that was missing for me. So I'm going with a 2.
Thank you. How about Nick?
Yeah, I hate this because I hate being hated, right? But I think I'm going to have to go for a 2 as well because I want to hear this presentation again in like a few weeks' time because I think you can crack it then. So I'm sorry, I have to go with a 2 halves. There's 1, there's 2.
And Ingmar?
2.
2.
But next time.
So you have something, but you need to polish it like a diamond so it shines, right?
Yeah.
And to present it in a different way.
We'll do that.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And now we're going to hear from Anne-Marie Melster. She's Executive Director of Artport. And Anne-Marie, you have the floor.
Hello. I'm taking off my glasses because they are dirty. I'm sorry. I'm running around the whole day. Yes, as you said, Anne-Marie Melster, Executive Director, Artport, Making Waves. That's very important, the Making Waves. People, well, usually they drop it because it's too long, I understand. We are working at the intersection of art, science, education, and climate change since 2005, 2006. So we are in this business already since a long time. We are a non-profit. We... That's not my image. Or is it? Oh, yeah, it is. Okay, sorry, I didn't recognize it. That was Venice a month ago. We combine, or we invite, we commission artists, and we work together with scientists on informal education to highlight the topic of the climate crisis and to look for solutions. So societal impact or contribution to societal change is important since the beginning. And we have been establishing projects all over the world since then, also with important organizations. We work a lot with the UN. Since 2019, I launched a program which is called We Are Ocean. It was originally planned as a series of 3 projects in Berlin, in Marseille in France, and in Venice in Italy. And meanwhile, it grew to a global program. We have been endorsed by UNESCO for the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development until 2030. So each project which is coming new, we have, I think right now 15 in the pipeline, is part of this program. And since Vancouver, we already established We Are Ocean Wardency. You as I assume that most of you are Europeans. You know what the Wardency and where the Wardency is. It's linking a trilateral area, Denmark, Germany, and the Netherlands. We are working on We Are Ocean SubMe, but this only next year. We wanted to start this year, but we had some roadblocks. And this year we will do something in Honduras, in Central America, and everything is related to ocean protection. So for us, obviously, youth empowerment is the most important goal, because we believe in education, and we believe in education at a very early stage. Of course, we can still learn when we are 60 and 70, but I think what is happening, or we think on behalf of Artport, what is happening at a young age. We even work with kids from 6 to 8 years. In India, we have been working with kids already from 3 to 4, and it is amazing how engaged they are, how smart they are, and how underestimated they are. And in Berlin, we have been working with teenagers from difficult family backgrounds or social backgrounds, and it was fantastic what they created. So the artists, they go with us into schools or universities to work on specific ocean topics together with the marine scientists, marine biologists, whom we invite, and they create a workshop series. And in this workshop series, they create collective artworks. And these collective artworks can be anything between a film, a video, a performance, a living sculpture, in Vancouver, since we were hit by the pandemic, we even did an app. We created an app which was consisting of several podcasts in order to work with the more than 700 young people who had enrolled into the program. So you see that we are always also very organic, working in an organic way, adapting to the circumstances. And for us, the collaborative moment is really very important. So we always co-curate the projects together with our partners. Not only the artists, the scientists, and the educators, but also the organizational partners who come on board, like UNESCO, like, of course, the funders and sponsors, whenever they are interested, and marine research institutions. In Venice, for example, for We Are Ocean Venice, we have the National Research Council of Italy on board, and they are amazing partners. They hosted us in this wonderful Palazzina Canonica in Venice, which is one of the old palazzi just on the Canale Grande. And this is so inspiring when you invite your artists and all collaborators to come on board to showcase what they have been doing. So my pitch is, I see that I only have 18 seconds left. My pitch is that I would like to create a We Are Ocean project in Sweden or in Scandinavia, focused onto ocean protection in the Baltic Sea, because the Baltic Sea is one of the most contaminated ocean basins, sea basins, or seas in the world. And what is missing in our projects, usually, we always have corporations on board, but we want a corporation, or we want several corporations who co-create this project with us. So who come on board with technological input, with management input to look out for solutions. Because for us, it's not only about sensitization. That was a long time ago. Right now, it's really about education and finding solutions. So we want to have artistic input, we want to have scientific input, we want to have corporate input, and the educational input. For that, we need corporations, of course, also their funding, but we can also find the funding somewhere else. I'm a fan of lotteries, for example, because it's the most democratic funding possible.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anne-Marie Melster. We need to finish now because you're 1 minute past your pitch time. So thank you very much. I'd like to turn to Dr. Sweta Chakraborty, who's the Doctor of Behavioral Science. And this is interesting for you, Sweta, isn't it?
This is interesting, not necessarily, well, yes, because what are the potential behavioral outcomes that come from this type of co-creation, breaking down of silos, bringing in different creative thinkers to be part of the creative process of finding solutions. I love all of that. What I need some clarity on here is this a for-profit venture or not-for-profit venture? And if it is for-profit, why for-profit over not-for-profit?
It's not for-profit. It's non-profit.
Excellent, thank you.
And we have been working since 18 years as a non-for-profit, and it is working quite well.
Thank you very much. Sergio or Boaz, who would like to go?
I can go very quickly. I would have liked to see in the presentation, I mean, I'm just talking directly about the presentation. I would like to see examples. I didn't see the art. I want to see the art. I want to experience it in a presentation like this. It seems very kind of like distant and not real when you're just speaking about it without any examples. Maybe you did have examples, but it didn't show on my screen. But that really was missing for me, because obviously education extremely important. Every collaboration extremely important. But what is it? I'm just trying to figure out what we're seeing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I offered presentations, but I was told that only like one image would be enough. So next time I come with like super presentations.
Yeah. So Sergio, a comment for you, please, or question.
I actually, again, Googled this as well. It took me a little bit to find it, and I do see, the amazing work you are doing and your commitment to oceans and the We Are Ocean. But I'm also just, I guess my main question right now is, what are you presenting to us? Because you're a well-established organization. I'm a huge fan of the arts and the ocean, and these are things that, to me, touch on, emotional triggers for me. But now the question is, what are we doing? What is the presentation? What are we talking about?
You mean
specifically?
The pitch So what I would like to do with you, it's actually very easy. We choose, together with all the partners, we choose an artist, we choose scientists, we choose schools which we are going to work with, and we select the topics, like what do we want to work on in the Baltic Sea? Is it contamination? Is it overfishing? Is it transport? Is it solar energy parks, etc.? And then we will set up workshops in schools, and the artists, if we work with several, they are going to create a collective artwork together with the school students. And this collective artwork is going to either virtually travel around the world, so no shipping of tons of artworks with container ships, etc. But like, for example, videos and, yeah? Is
Excellent.
that enough? Okay, good.
Well, thank you. It's time to go for a vote. Let's start with Nick Nuttall.
Yeah, well, so I have to conflict of interest here, actually, because I'm actually on Anne-Marie Melster and Artport Making Waves advisory committee, is it, or a board? I can't board, yeah. So I have to be careful here because she might fire me. And I think the pitch was here for support for this project, right? And I think it's quite simple. So I would like to support that project, so I'm going to give it a 4.
4 hearts, thank you. And how about Ingmar?
I'm not going to be nice to pictures that go over time. We don't have time, so that's a minus. I also have some background information about what you're doing, and I think art is very needed in the solution to the environment crisis. But I didn't see any art on stage, and I didn't really understand the pitch. So I'm very sorry. I like the project, but the pitch was not the best this evening, so I give 1 heart.
Okay, that's harsh, but we have had that before. And Sweta?
Okay, now that I understand you're established, and I'm a big fan of the arts, and I think art has a massive role to play in moving people, mobilizing people to action, I would love to get behind this and support this. Your board member gave a 4, so I'm not sure if I can go higher than your existing board member, so I'm going to go with a 4.
Thank you, Sweta. Boaz, please.
I didn't love the presentation. I love the idea, but I didn't love the presentation, so I'm going to go with a 2.
Thank you. Sergio?
I think the you were hindered by what you were allowed to bring in the presentation. So I think that I won't judge based on the dynamics of how you were led here. So I think I'm going to stick with a 3 because I'm a big believer in the arts, and arts is the catalyst, and STEAM and STEM. The arts is always what makes it, brings everything together, that creates the ideas and the solutions. So. Thank you for the time. I just think it needed a little bit more honing in specifically, saying this is what I want to do.
Well, thank you very much, Sergio. And thank you very much, Anne-Marie Melster, making waves here on the stage. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Second to last now, we have Andrew Sims. He's co-director of the New Weather Institute. And over to you. Please step on. You have your 5 minutes.
Absolutely terrifying judges, so straight in. We know that rapid and socially just change is necessary. So why is the climate still changing faster than we are? Well, one reason is that people get a very different message all day, every day, from advertising that suggests we can carry on as we are. It's bizarre. In the middle of a climate emergency, why are we surrounded by adverts for heavily polluting, high-carbon products and lifestyles that make the emergency worse? There was a time, not that long ago actually, when tobacco companies used doctors to promote smoking in adverts. But smoking was killing people, just as the climate crisis is now. Tobacco companies knew about the health impacts for decades, but resisted and lobbied against action. They deliberately undermined the science and used sophisticated PR to prevent public awareness of smoking's health impacts. And then their ads were banned. It's the same playbook used by the fossil fuel industries now. They knew decades ago about their climate impacts, but sowed doubt and lobbied against action. Now, the fossil fuel and high-carbon industries, I think, are the new tobacco. Each year, an estimated 8.7 million people die from the pollution from burning fossil fuels. How big is the problem? Open any magazine, go on public transport, watch a sports match on TV, and there are adverts everywhere for SUVs, for airlines, and for oil companies pretending to be more green than they are. Car makers spent an estimated $35.5 billion on advertising in major global markets in 2018. Ford are thought to have allocated 85% of their ad budget that year to SUVs and trucks. Following heavy promotion by vehicle makers in less than a decade, SUVs, the most polluting kind of car, went from being just 1 in 10 of new car sales to over 4 in 10. It's out of control. In the UK, there were 150,000 cars sold in 2019 that were too big for a standard parking space. What was the result? SUVs were the second largest contributor to the increase in global CO2 emissions between 2010 and 2018, after the power sector, but ahead of heavy industry and aviation. Driving even an average modern car, just 500 meters, emits enough carbon dioxide to melt 1 kilogram of glacier ice. Now, sadly, advertising works. One recent estimate looking at the degree to which global car and airline advertising increased demand suggests that for 2019, it could be responsible for somewhere between 200 million and 600 million tons of CO2. Somewhere between the emissions of the Netherlands or twice those of Spain. The message isn't getting through. Car makers have cheated on emissions on an epic scale and lobbied against action. The airline's Fly Net Zero plan literally ignores half of aviation's climate impact and imagines that flight numbers can double by 2050. Sometimes it just gets kind of ridiculous. The football club Manchester United recently launched a scheme to encourage fans to recycle plastic bottles. Their reward was free air miles from their sponsor, the airline Etihad. But the very high-profile nature of advertising and sponsorship means that change is possible. When the footballer Ronaldo removed a Coke bottle in a press conference, it took 4 billion off Coke's share value. And steps are being taken. France is requiring car adverts to carry environmental warnings and also make them promote walking, cycling, and take public transport instead. Amsterdam and 5 other Dutch cities have banned public ads for fossil fuels and cars and airlines. UK councils are following suit. There is now a European citizens' initiative for a new EU law modelled on the tobacco law that would ban fossil fuel ads, and it's raised over 200,000 signatures. Given the challenge facing other climate measures, simply removing the pressure from advertising that pushes us to consume additional polluting products should prove an attractive option for policymakers. Now, of course, stopping ads won't prevent people buying things, but it will reduce demand and the cultural normalization of the harm. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we need to stop advertising our own self-destruction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. You actually had well, almost 20 seconds left.
Shall I keep going?
No, Andrew, no, Andrew.
So I'd like to start with you again, Sweta, since you have the behavioral science background.
Well, fantastic presentation. You stuck to time, so you know you're not going to lose any points from Ingmar on that. Are you following, first of all, not-for-profit or for-profit?
Not-for-profit.
Okay. And are you following the similar playbook of what transpired since with tobacco?
Well, in the sense that we think there is a clear precedent from the idea that public harm from a product we should not be promoting products which cause understood public harm. Yes.
So you would actually, the same way that the pressure was put onto policymakers to eventually ban the adverts, that's the idea of what this institute is going to get behind and support.
Of evidence from studying the effect of the ban on tobacco ads and the changing of the nature of the warnings, so that we think we're standing on really solid research ground.
So you're ready to take on Edelman?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
How about Nick Nuttall? You have worked in communications.
Yeah, I've got at home an ad from Standard Oil. You know that one that became ExxonMobil, I think, which proudly states how many glaciers they can melt from their production of oil burning. This is from the 1950s or 60s, so not much has changed. I love this campaign. I've actually signed up for it, so I'm a bit of it's an easy sell to me, really. I only thing is, I wonder whether it shouldn't be against something. Sometimes it's fun to be against things, but sometimes it's good to be for things. Maybe it should be a campaign for free ads for all the people that want to show what we can do to fight climate change, and just charging those oil companies more and more and more to advertise. It's a different way of flipping the debate.
As they say in the trade, I'm glad you said that, because part of the campaign is when we're removing those sort of billboards, those adverts you've got no choice over looking at, creating spaces for communal art, for bringing people together in high streets, and we actually do takeovers of billboards where we invite the community in and ask them what they would like to have instead.
Thank you, Andrew. Sergio, did you Google this time, or it was crystal clear?
Oh, I Googled, and the funny thing is that, Andrew, I don't know if you know, but you have an auto dealership called Andrew Sims Trucks and Cars, which is ironic.
My evil twin.
You know, I come from the advertising space my entire life. I have a foundation that focuses on how we use media data technology for good. I live and breathe this space, and I think that you're as someone from this space, I think your approach is going to get limited traction because of the way the ad industry works. And I think that part of some of the suggestions that should be would be say, hey, well, instead of spending this money into advertising, create funds and structures that are putting those funds into and promoting doing good and actually reinvesting and fixing what has been done wrong. So I just, my question is, and I went to your New Climate Solutions website, and I saw that that there is a couple of different initiatives here, and this is related to the Climate Chaos initiative, advertising climate chaos. Is that what that is?
Well, one of the really good things is actually there's a number of initiatives now within the advertising industry where certain agencies are saying that they will not take those kind of briefs anymore. So there's a movement within the industry, and we're also pushing the regulators so that they can actually take this as part of their remit. So we're coming at it from as many sides as we can think of.
Thank you. Let's go to a vote. Let's start with Ingmar.
I'm used to work helping customers doing ads. It's very profitable. People pay a lot of money to sell a lot of stuff. And it works. I mean, you market, you promote big cars, people buy them. And it's also correlation. If you have a little bit trouble with your product, you put some more marketing to boost the sales. And that's what fossil fuel companies are going to do now. It's like the death spiral, because they can't afford market them because the alternative will be much better. So I give 5 love for this because I truly believe that communication works, and I mean, it's insane to advertise a lifestyle that are destroying our life. It's a no-brainer.
Thank you,
and it was
Ingmar.
a good presentation.
Thank you, Ingmar. Boaz, how many hearts, please?
I echo Ingmar's words. I think this is an absolutely essential part of the whole fighting the crisis. We absolutely need to stop these advertisements. I work in communication my whole life. I know the power of communication and advertisement. And banning fossil fuel products and companies that use them is absolutely needed, and they needed to happen yesterday. So 5 for me.
Thank you. Sergio, please.
Yes, I'm also going to go with a 5, obviously, because this is what I live and breathe. And I just think that you could evolve your thinking to come up with solutions, right? Like, we don't have time, and we need those solutions that are going to give them a reason to actually collaborate and to start to go towards that path. But I love what you're doing, and what I really enjoyed was your passion. Because you really made that fit and you still had 20 seconds.
Thank you, Sergio. Nick.
Yeah, well, I know Andrew, and I've always admired his passion. So I will give it 5-2, but with a small little asterisk next to it, which is, I'm sure it's good to show the SUVs, but as we saw from Nigel Topping earlier on the show today, you know, the electric car revolution really is taking off big time. And I think maybe the airlines might be a better target.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Sweta?
Way to clean up, Andrew. Nice. 5 from me, too, especially if you have our logo across one of these billboards that you co-create with the community. I think, look, we've seen it work with big tobacco. We need to accelerate it with the fossil fuel industry. And let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew Sims, and best of luck. So last but not least, we have Boaz Knoll. He is CEO of Green Swan Lab. Boaz, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh.
Fire away.
Hi. Very nice to meet you. Thank you. I'm Boaz Knoll. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Green Swan Lab. We're a startup from Israel. Literally launched our platform last week and now in Series A. And we're going to disrupt entire ecosystems of innovation by boosting a lot of knowledge in order to help people like you and innovation seekers making faster and smarter decisions and accelerating the whole system because we don't have time. As it's all clear here that, you know, innovation with awareness is our only chance. And we can be very, very optimistic because that's what we do as humans. And history shows that. We invent, we create, we do innovation. But innovation needs to be accelerated. And the biggest problem of every entrepreneur here is that when they sit with investors, specifically when we talk about climate solution that is so technical and scientific, and they sit in front of the investor or the decision maker, they just don't understand what they're talking about. And the biggest problem of the investor on the other side, and innovation seekers, and our mission is to bring mainstream venture capital, those that are now in gaming industry and dating app into this field, is that there's this gap of knowledge that is very, very clear in order to really be able to even start making those decisions. Companies understand that they need to transform their entire core business, be ESG and SDG and net zero and all that stuff, and they don't know how. And this is why we created the Green Swan Lab. Basically what we are doing, we are a knowledge management system. We're taking the methodology of peer review from the academic world. As you know, every research before it's go published going through a peer review. The FDA that approved our vaccine is a peer review, and we bring that into the world of innovation and climate solution. We have a global network of experts, all kinds of experts from all over the world. Think about it like the Uber of knowledge. So my drivers are very diverse experts from all over the world in many, many different fields. And our algorithm take every question regarding every solution and do the matchmaking with every question and its ultimate peer review of diverse experts, minimum 5 experts per question, blend it all together into a grading and assessment reporting to innovation seekers and for the startups, assessing the business model, the technology, and the impact on the environment. So think about it like the Moody's, the S&P for startups, but in this methodology of real experts, not for analysts, diverse, global, and providing a tool to help making decisions faster and smarter. Our clients are, on the one hand, those innovation seekers, every chief sustainability officer, head of innovation, funds, consultants that need answers, and they get this reporting. They get a tailor-made marketplace of solutions based on their needs, backed by this reporting and grading that our peer review made for them. And on the other hand, the startups get this report, number one, with real feedback from real experts that they don't have access to on a day-to-day, and a roadmap for success, but more than that, an objective third-party stamper, you know, like the cautious stamp of for green startup in order to accelerate by an objective third party that is diverse enough. So these are the side, and the matchmaking based on that grading is done within the ecosystem. With that, we want to bring new actors into the ecosystem. We want to throw a lot of knowledge that is objective, that is diverse, and can help innovation seekers and can help the entire ecosystem work faster, smarter, and better. And I even have 1 minute left. Thank you.
So maybe you'll get bonus points for starting, finishing early, right?
Ask more questions.
Excellent. More time for questions. So let's turn to Nick here.
Yeah, I think it sounds absolutely brilliant. And I think it could be really good for particularly innovations in the developing world, where language is a barrier to a lot of the investors from, say, the north, and often it's very hard for them to surface. And then people like in Britain are like, oh, it's from Honduras, can we trust it? You know, this kind of thing. So I think it'd be really good for that. But one quick question. Can you name one of these experts that you have on this panel that everybody might know?
Professor Jeffrey Sachs, head of the health.
Okay, fine, that's good enough.
At Columbia University.
That's good enough.
He's everywhere.
Not all of them are superstars like that. We have PhD from Stanford and a scientist from India and the engineer from NASA, all kind of people. That's the thing. No one is expert for anything, for everything, but everyone is expert for something. Each one of you is a potential expert for me because our algorithm knows how to take the best of you and match you the right questions that match your knowledge and skill and blend it all together into this. And it's never you alone. It's always a minimum of 5 experts. So none of the experts can, it's about the average of all of them. By the way, even more, when we see a big gap between the experts, the algorithm automatically makes the statistical model higher and higher and higher. So we are now in the technological side, and we see that out of the 5, 3 graded number 4 and 1 graded number 2. Immediately we will add more and more, another physics guy and another physics guy and another chemistry guy, until we reach the consensus among experts for this question, which is what you will get.
And maybe woman expert too, lady.
A lot of women experts,
yes,
by the
you
way.
said guy, sorry. Just
Sorry.
The other Boaz, please. We have 2 Boazes here today.
Hi, Boaz.
How unlikely is it to have 2 Boazes in one place? That's amazing.
Yeah,
very nice to have you here. I love the idea. I think it's a good pitch. I think it's a worthy cause. I don't have any questions. I think you have a good pitch there.
Thank you, Sergio. Please, reflections or question.
Yeah, I think it is. How do you plan on scaling up the experts? Right. So as was just stated, to have more women, more diversity. You know, I think Jeff Sachs is great, but like, you know, that he's very lopsided in his thinking. Right. So how do you bring in, you know, experts either in Kenya and how are you going to get that word out? Because I think you have a good platform.
So number 1, we pay them a lot. So we pay our experts. It's a model of cash and bonuses. The algorithm over time also learn how to grade the graders. So we know how to ask them better questions that suit them better, and we pay them also accordingly. So it starts with $50 per question cash, plus bonuses and bonuses. We do huge campaigns all over. The fact that we are in the green arena and in the sustainability helps us a lot. You know, it's a passion and involvement and getting paid a lot. And we're actually doing very well in recruiting the experts. Yeah.
All right. Sweta.
Can you give me an example of a need and then one of your favorite startups that fulfilled that need?
Interesting. So we're working with a company named Hargol. They produce protein from grasshoppers, okay? Apparently it's tons of protein, the healthiest thing you can even think about. And he say how he goes to Silicon Valley and he meets with all these big venture capitals. They're almost throwing up on his face when he's talking about grasshoppers, you know, and offers them to eat. He made hamburger and jelly candies and anything you can imagine. And he said they're not even deep enough to realize that in China they eat it like candies, you know, these grasshoppers. And he said, if I could start the meeting with putting this document signed by this guy from Stanford and this guy from India and this guy from Guatemala that are all real experts, not 4 kids that just finished school that will write, that in McKinsey would write the report for you, but real, diverse, global, objective experts. That's exactly where I want to be, to give him that push, you know, in order to really make things work faster and better.
Thank you, Boaz. Sergio, you're looking happy. Well, how many hearts, please?
You know, someone that's been an entrepreneur my whole life and an innovator and I've seen this sort of public-private, I think that, to me, this is a 5. You know, it's really, it addresses all the issues. It really also allows the long tail to evolve and also kind of, the focus on green from the Black Swan. I was on the website, right? So from the Black Swan to the Green Swan, I think it's also a great storyline. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you. Boaz, Paldi?
Yeah, it's a 5 for me as well. I promise it's not because of the shared name, but I really love the idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Sweta, please.
It's a 5 from me too, and bring me on as an expert. We can add to the diversity card.
GreatSwanLab.com. Open a profile. I would love to. All of you.
Ingmar, Rentzhog, please.
I don't 100% understand this. If I'm an entrepreneur, I'm working on climate solutions, pitch me. Why should I join your platform?
Why should you join your platform? You come to me, you fill up a questionnaire, and within 2 weeks, you will get a report done by diverse global real experts from all over the world. It will give you, number one, an internal document for you with real, honest, objective feedback from experts that normally you don't have access to, all right? That will give you a real roadmap for success. And if you pass our threshold, you will get a certification, a kosher stamp, that you can go later with to show investors, like a third-party objective assessment that assessing your startup in order to move forward. And you go on our marketplace that we do the matchmaking. So our system, let's say that someone got very high on the technology, but on the business model is still so-so, the algorithm would know to bring it to Intel, that are more long-term R&D investors than to the family office. So based on that grading, we would also do the matchmaking for all your investors and innovation seekers.
What are you reviewing? My climate solution or sustainability?
A report is done by 3 dimensions: the business model, the technology, and the impact on the environment. Now again, if my machine learning did the right job in matchmaking every question to the right knowledge and skills, then the question to the experts is kind of, what do you think? Do you write about your assumptions? What is your real value proposition? Are you targeting the right markets, all right? How scalable is your technology? These are the kinds of questions we ask the experts, and it's all blended together into the report.
Thank you, Boaz. How many hearts, Ingmar?
It was a good answer, but I'm giving a 4. I think this is needed, but what is really needed is, you have so many great solutions, good startups that could get amazing feedback, but it's all about the execution of scaling. So I hope you will bring in a lot of experts in that field on how to scale those things, and not just telling them if they're doing it good or bad, but also helping them with it.
Definitely.
So I give a 4.
Okay.
We even have one layer. If you didn't pass the threshold, one of the experts is assigned to you as a mentor.
Okay.
He's working with you on your weaknesses point, and then you go to another peer review.
I give a 4+
to get a certificate. 4.5.
Right.
Thank you.
We need to conclude here.
Okay, I'm just going to say just one thing, which is I think, again, for people in the developing world with really innovative ideas, this could be really useful because they find it very hard to get any doors to open to their ideas. And I think it's opening doors for people, and then we'll find out whether the thing works or not. Because somebody else will decide afterwards. But it opens a door to a possibility, and I think that's very special. And therefore, I'm going to give it a... Can't give 4.5, can you? Shit.
No.
Okay, I'm going to give it a 4 as well. I think it's very special.
Well, thank you very much, Boaz.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we move on to accumulating the votes. Ingmar, you need to look at your what you've written down, and you also need to look at your own fabulous app to see how many votes we have gotten from the
I'm a bit worried here, though, because Ingmar, for the first time in my life, is actually using paper. And I have no idea, digital native, whether we can really add up or not using pen and paper.
He has a background in finance.
Okay, fine. We'll cross-check it, okay? Sweta, we'll just...
So
okay.
while these wonderful jurors are calculating here, and I must say it was very difficult for me as a journalist not to ask questions here, just sort of facilitate this, because it was this was really, really engaging. And I, of course, want to thank the jurors. Any reflections here while Ingmar is calculating from Sergio on your job here and the process?
I have it here.
Sergio?
None here. None here. Thank you. I just think it's we've had a really great collection of unique and different ideas and platforms. And as we just saw with Boaz, this is something that's actually living, breathing, and exists. And as we saw earlier as well, platforms that are addressing real change. With stopping fossil fuel advertising. So to me, the last two were really they were in the works, or being done, and really making a difference. If we could stop the communications and change communications, as we're working all together here, we're working with Don't Choose Extinction, right? And educating folks in the power of communication. We really can make a difference. So I'm excited about what we've learned here today.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And you'll be back on Sunday for the second Dragonfly's Den. But stay with us, because we need to hear what's compiled here. Boaz, Paldi, what was your experience here? Any remarks?
I think it gives me hope. There's so much going on out there, and so many excellent ideas. Even the ideas that I didn't like as much as the other ones were fantastic ideas. So it's really kind of like for me, it shows that the people of the world are going in the right direction. We know which direction we need to go in. We know that we need to solve this issue as quickly as we possibly can. And I've always thought that humanity together have every innovation possible to solve this problem, and this session just reaffirmed that and gave me hope.
Well, thank you very much, Boaz, Paldi from UNDP. So, Ingmar, do we have a result?
We don't have a winner, because we will do more pitches on Sunday.
Absolutely, but we need.
We have some of those pitchers taking the lead.
Yeah, I know the winner, but the winner
is
today.
Is it like semi-finalists? Is it like the football tournament? This quarter-finals, semi-finals.
And the people's vote is too early to count. So I encourage the pitchers to share their reviews, so more people will.
So what you're saying is that you're not disclosing, or what are you saying?
I'm disclosing what we have been voting.
All right. So we'll wait. This is the jury vote, and then we'll wait for the people's vote.
Because we want full transparency here.
Yes. Our winner is new weather and banning fossil fuel ads.
All right.
With 25. Climate love, and with an asterisk. So I don't know, is asterisk something good or bad?
Asterisk, it depends. I mean, are you talking about asterisks, the cartoons, or are you talking about the little thing that appears in a funny squiggly way next to it? No, there was a reservation on one point. I wanted to do 4.5, but...
Okay. And after that we have Green Swan Lab, and after that we have Azelio, and right after WWF.
Can we have some applause?
But I think everyone is...
Everyone's a winner.
Climate love.
Excellent. And also, of course, this applause goes out to the jurors, Sergio, Boaz, Nick, Ingmar, and Sweta for posing excellent questions, and just for putting your hearts into this. Really, that was noticeable that you were very, very much involved in this. And as mentioned earlier, the three finalists from today. Together with the three finalists Sunday, we will make sure that the winner on Sunday, the 1, 2, 3, will get the opportunity to expand upon their solutions in a 30-minute deep dive. And that's going to happen in our next edition of Climate Action News One-on-One, which is a program that I'm hosting for We Don't Have Time. And we will have the opportunity to pitch. They will have the opportunity to pitch at COP27. So we'll have to keep you in suspense until Sunday, when we have the winner and the number 2 and the number 3 compiled from the votes of the jurors here, the votes of the jurors on Sunday, and also all of you voting here from now on the platform. So as Ingmar said, companies that have been pitching, post on the We Don't Have Time app. And you can gather votes, and of course, all of you watching, interact and give climate hearts to the people that have been pouring their energy out here on stage in the pitching session. So this marks the end of the Dragonfly's Den, and thank you again. Thank you, Nick, for joining us. Sweta and Ingmar will stay because we have something else exciting coming up.
Thank you very much.
So there is lots of wonderful commotion here in the corner from the pitching companies and their supporters that have been watching the pitching session here. Now it's time for today's final panel. And Sweta Chakraborty, she's staying here next to us, sitting still in the sofa, next to Ingmar Rentzhog, the CEO and founder of We Don't Have Time. And they will be joined by a wonderful person, Rudolf Hilti. He is founder and chair of the System Change Foundation with a HUS. It's a think and also action tank to explore the transformation of the old economy into the digital modern era. So now you need to prepare yourselves for perhaps, there you go, Rudolf, wonderful to have you here. And prepare yourselves for perhaps somewhat unusual climate discussion, focusing on how to combine radical optimism with total transformation. We're going to talk here about how we as humans, by casting away everything we've previously taken for granted or held as truths, can free ourselves of old baggage and maybe be able to create something completely new. And this talk here will be unmoderated, so I'm just letting you loose here on stage, and I'm going to step off and just enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think one big issue we have is we always talk about improvements, but if you improve bad things, you make them better, but they're still wrong. And this is a big issue, because sometimes you have to go a radical step. And this needs a lot of energy and as well a lot of passion for new things. And it's like an adventure. There are only a few people who love the adventures. But a small some people love it and they will do it, and others follow. And I think it's the same what we have to do right now with climate. And we have to change our systems. But there's so many opportunities. But in the beginning, everything is crazy. Everything which is new is crazy when you start with it. And then in 10 years, it will be the new normal. And this we have to accept. And this is the opportunity. And this thinking I love to expand. But with people who think very entrepreneurial, people who are optimistic they can be part of it, that see the biggest opportunity in it. Because we can redesign the whole world. And we have to, for sure, this we know, but nobody knows how to start and nobody believes in it. This is the issue. But that's why, how can we start this dialogue that we really find a critical mass, maybe only a few, but people who can bring it to scale, because this is what we have to do. And to bring it to scale within no time, we have to collaborate. And to collaborate, we need trust. And I think the biggest or the best thing to trust each other is to find a common purpose, common goal, a huge goal. It's like a mission. It's a mission-driven approach. And this we find when we interact with each other, if we start to discuss, if we ask questions. I think nobody has their answers yet, but we will find them together. And then we have to respect the craziness of people, because what I mentioned before, everything is crazy until you do it. And this we have to accept. And these are the opportunities we have. That's why I would love to open up the dialogue with you and as well with the others afterwards to really to discuss what we could do. And let's be a bit crazy and open and optimistic that we can redesign planet Earth and the systems we have.
I think you're onto something. How everything looks and how everything are is what it is right now. But the future is not something that is happening. The future is something we are creating.
Sure.
And if we have a vision, and if we work together in order to achieve that vision, we will do it. We just need to be enough number of people in order to do it. And we don't need to have a clear vision, because it's very hard to know what I'm going to do in my life 5 years, 10 years, 20, 40 years from now. But we could have a direction, and that is enough. And what I'm feeling very sad about today is it's so few people that have a direction at all. And when I speak to people within the impact space, they are very pessimistic, and that is very frustrating. I can understand why youth are pessimistic about the future, because they don't have the power. But if you're an investor, and if you're working on investing for impact, I meet a lot of those pitching, we don't have time. They have no direction. They have no trust in humanity that we're going to build something better. And I can understand that, but I can't understand how you could work on making investments if you don't believe in the future. It will be much better to spend the money and do something fun here and now if you don't believe we have a future. So let's create the future we want. And in order to do that, trust is everything. And that is also something that concerns me, because when a society are changing fast, right now, we are super fast change. We don't even see it, because we will see it when we look back. It's really chaotic times right now, and it's going to be even worse. Just look at the food supply coming months this year. We tend to go very conflict. It's not my fault, it's your fault. It's the people living somewhere else's fault, or it's the rich people's fault, or it's the oil company's fault, or the politicians' fault, it's the grown-ups' fault. You could always make those excuses and blame someone else. But by blaming someone else, you're not taking responsibility yourself. Of course, we should tell someone else if they're doing something that they shouldn't, but if they don't do it, what's stopping you do it? So instead of distrusting people, show them that we can do it in a better way. And I think that if we lose trust, we will lose hope. We need trust, and when we trust someone, we can also trust someone that we don't agree on, but because we need a dialogue. And today we're avoiding that dialogue. Social media is like when someone doesn't agree with you, you unfollow them, and that's probably the most stupid thing we can do.
Exactly. And I think as well we have to be optimistic, because then you take the risks. We have to take risks. But for me, I don't see risk in doing the right thing right now, because I'm very passionate about it. And passion, I think, creates success, because you're full behind it. This is what we have to do. It's the same in sports. You do it because it's just a context you create to say you would like to win something. But here it's not to win, it's a common goal we have, and there we have to create this passion that we really create something which is radical different and sustainable by its DNA, and together, not alone, because we have to please scale it up.
What you're both raising is the innate paradox of human beings, where we look to the future, and that's what makes us unique as a species from other animals. At the same time, we still have our lizard brains, or our system 1 processing. That means that we only think in the immediate. We don't actually look forward to the long term, and it results in an inertia of inaction, which is why we haven't mobilized despite the very real threats that are in front of us related to the planet warming. Except many of those ripple effects, now we're experiencing them in real time, but many of them are still perceived as slow moving or far away or generations far ahead. And humans still have that flight or fight response that is the first thing that lights up day to day. And we haven't evolved from that. The landscape that we're operating in, the very real global, complex, interconnected risk that we're experiencing is not something that we can immediately process and act on. So we need to, those of us that have the luxury to be able to take the time to recognize these risks and to act on them, need to look at those who may not be acting, not with frustration, even though I feel the frustration that everyone feels around the lack of mobilization, but with compassion. And the reason for that compassion is that we are all intrinsically the same. We all do care about the future. We have more in common as human beings than not. And that's something we have to remember. Even the people that piss you off more than anything else have actually very much the same intrinsic needs and desires. And you probably have much more in common if you take a moment to have a conversation to build that trust. And once you have that trust, because you can find one thing you have in common with somebody, something as simple as being human or being a nationality, maybe you have that in common. Then from there, you can actually begin to communicate in a way that resonates with that person and will move them to act in a way that you would hope if what you're hoping for is mobilization on different climate solutions. And that trust is crucial, and before we even get to that moment of trust, we must have compassion for those who don't agree with us. That's really critical. We cannot otherize people. Everyone is much more similar than not.
Definitely. And I think, look, it's always the same. In the beginning, you only have few people who start something, then the crowd will follow up. Because people hate change, the law of stability, by keeping it how it is, what they know. It's the same people, or children hate the dark, because you can't see. And this is exactly where we are right now. We can't see where it will go. That's why we need the risk takers doing the crazy stuff. And in the beginning it's crazy, and then you have people who will laugh about it, and then they will fight against it because they're afraid that they will lose something, and then in the end they will accept it. And this we have to understand. It's not that we have to blame someone, or not that we have to accept it how it is. We have to accept. And I think there's so many realities on this planet, how many humans there are. So everyone has his own perspective, and this we have to accept as well. But there we can work on it, this paradigm shift, because everything, what's recognition, all humans are looking for recognition. And we have so many stupid things, recognition, how we create it today, by consuming bad things to get recognition. I think this will totally change.
This is why we should ban fossil fuel advertising.
Yeah, but I think people should feel guilty in the future. I think it's the same with camel and all these things. When we see it right now, we think, what was going on? The same will be with fossil fuels in 10, 20 years. People say, what did you do? And now it sounds crazy, but I think in 20 years, we can't understand why people did it. But back to what can we do, and we have to take the people with us, and we have to start to change this context. And it's the same, so many things are beauty because we create a context like a car, it's an object, right? But it's not, the beauty is not from the car itself, it's from the subject to the object. We create a context of a beauty. If it's a new car, we love it, it's nice. After 10 years, usually it's an ugly old car, but it's the same object. It's not the object is never changing, it's just our perspective, how we see it, if it's new or old. Okay, design classic is something else, but we create, it's the same in art, we create the realities. And this we have to change. But in the beginning it will be only a few people. But that's why it's important as well. It's not always what you say, it's always who says what. We have to create the right people, getting them together. Yeah. Where as always with money is like energy you need, and then you have to push it to the right directions, not improvements, new directions.
Super important what you say now. It's that it's not the message. You could always improve the message, but what we really need is the right people talking. We need people advocating for change in all kinds of society, on all levels of society, and they can only influence their own people. So what I dream of is to create kind of a micro-society where no one uses social media, And you have like one person working with agriculture, one person working with finance, another person working with art, etc., etc. And they create a community sharing information, and they themselves are talking with their own community, and they spread like that.
And the science supports that. That's what works. If you have a spokesperson who's trusted, you will be able to get a predicted behavioral outcome from the community that they are trusted in. And we need to activate that more. And we're doing that with the We Don't Have Time platform. I'm a behavioral scientist, so I'm ensuring that the behavioral science advances that we have, that we actually unleash it through our platform. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of being able to mobilize people. And imagine when we unleash the potential of those that have been historically disenfranchised, those that haven't been part of these decision-making roles historically, women and groups across the world that have been vulnerable and haven't had the same access to all of the new technologies and solutions that are increasingly at our fingertips. We are going to accelerate the solutions because we're allowing for behavioral science and communication science and now technology that it accelerates that to reach the masses and unleash the potential that is going to accelerate the solutions to the climate crisis and usher in a future that is brand new because it's actually equitable. We've never had that. So that's the opportunity here that we can bring with behavioral science, behavioral intervention, science and technology. It's so exciting.
We have a problem though, and that is...
Way to kill my thunder.
Sorry. The problem is that, I mean, we need to change the system. Everyone can agree on that, or most people agree on that. But many people doesn't support that change. And those that are really are working against that change are often our leaders.
Because they have something to lose.
So because they have something to lose, and they are getting really afraid of this. Optimistic. So most of the leaders we have, political leaders, corporate leaders, other influential leaders like artists and music artists, etc., they are struggling to stay in the old system. So we're really lack of people that understand that we need to change, that have the platform to speak out. And this is frustrating because we need to mobilize leaders that advocate for change, and not just advocating for change, or living the change. Because that's how you get followers. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And business leaders, we have seen a lot of business leaders on We Don't Have Time shows that are having state-of-the-art solutions. This is maybe not so popular I'm talking about right now. I think what they do is perfect. I love it. That's why they're on the stage. But those leaders often doesn't live themselves in a new way, because they think that they're doing enough because they're running a big company working on climate solutions. But what they should understand, and this is not blaming them, because I'm not blaming them, you don't need to do it, but if they also are changing their own lifestyle, their power of communication will be so much bigger. Sure. I don't think you need to do it, but I think you should be encouraged to do it.
They're trusted more.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I think you have to be open enough for it, because if you see the opportunities in it, we can redesign everything, and you just have to be optimistic. Yeah. And as a leader, you should see this opportunity to join it instead of being afraid to lose something what we have today, because the world is dynamic. It's not like in the past, in the industrial age, you have to be very linear, focus on what you do, everything else was not your thing. In the future, because everything is connected. Okay, the world was always connected, but now the business world is well connected. Yeah. And this we have to see as an opportunity. It will be dynamic. It's going faster. Things you will grow out of.
And the opportunity, I think, is crucial, because many leaders think that, oh, I need to live in another way, low carbon lifestyle, and that is something I'm sacrificing. Mm-hmm. And if they see it like that, they will communicate their lifestyle changes really, really badly, because people will see that they're suffering by changing. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the leader that see that this lifestyle is so much better. I'm doing it with joy. And we can do that. I mean, I made a lot of changes myself since I started We Don't Have Time. I'm absolutely not perfect. No one are. But I'm doing those changes with joy. I have much better life by reducing my carbon emission when I had higher carbon emission. But I still do bad things. But I'm at least doing it with joy.
This conversation needs to continue. It will continue, and it's fascinating to listen to you in the backdrop here. Actually, what's happening here is that Rudolf Filti and the Huss invites everyone here in the audience to join on stage, to continue the conversation, to be part of it. So just please, all of you come up on stage, and as you do this, you can just join, please. This is serious. Come up and join the conversation. You can sit down here and stand up around this team here and talk. And as a final send-off, while you do this, we have a world premiere. We have a world premiere here on stage, and it is a new single. It's released today in partnership with Fridays for Future MAPA, and it's supported by We Don't Have Time. And the release here, the single, will raise vital money for the communities on the front line of the climate crisis. And it's called Save the World, and it's a remake of the Swedish House Mafia track, and it's sung by Jarvis Smith and featuring Rita Morar. So while all of you who wants to take part in this continuous conversation here on stage, join us here on stage. We play the world premiere of this music video.